adapting it. After COVID, it has gone up in a higher scale, and people started that virtual activities has to be accepted. Uh, I'm going back to the few years back. The first AI model has been developed in 1989 in Stanford, and it is developed by Shortleaf, his PhD thesis. This is the expert system in healthcare, and the thesis name was Mycin, and it has been given a new looks towards the healthcare, but people do not like to believe it because at that time technology was not there and data was not available, so it was not possible to go further. But when the 20th century, or sorry, in the 21st century, people have started using the technology, accepting the technology, and people are more prone to the technology. That's why it has come up the new concept in that. Earlier it was we are playing with the data and converting to the information. But nowadays it has come up from data to information, from information to knowledge, from the knowledge to intelligence. So this is the fourth step it has come up. Earlier we are in the two steps we are working on it. When it has come the fourth steps, now people have started, technology has come up, the human biological science has come up with 4P concept. The 4P concept means we can predict it, we can preventive it, we can personalized care we can do it, and the patient should participate in large model. So that's why we'll get a lot of data which can be used for the good quality of treatment using the different AI tools to good quality and accurate treatment in this regard. Right now, I am coming to the new concept. People are, everybody know it. Means the new generation people, they also know it and using it. The generative AI, the large language models which has come up, and people have started using ChatGPT. And right now, the industrial ChatGPT 4 has come up. It is so beautifully designed, and it is very easy to use it. The work which was doing for the days, months, now it is coming in few hours. So these are the things it has come up. But when we are talking about digital transformations and using the AI, the first one is that how to reduce the treatment time and give the good quality of treatment to the patients. Let's take one example I am giving you. People have started using the bots. So when the patient is sick, they are using the particular hospital bots to screening his own disease, that he can find out that which specialty of doctors he's supposed to go. With few questions here, the bot will ask you and the patient has to answer it through voice. It is not required that you have to go for, you have to type it from the voice, and it is accepting multiple language. So in these cases, what it happens when the patient is coming to the hospitals and he is finding a specialty to go, it takes a lot of time. A lot of screening is required. But AI bots for the hospitals, it has gone down to drastically, and the same day the patient will know it that which specialty has to take appointments and show himself in that specialty. This is the one step it has come up. Another one it has come up. People have started using it AI in the clinical models to make more quality of care. Sometimes what happens, some decision makings during the clinical setups, it has missing by the doctors due to the heavy loads, you can say, due to the mindset of the doctors when he was busy some other works. In that cases, these tools, people are using it and getting a new directions to the doctors to get the treatments. These are the few steps it has come up, and but the quality of cares, it has given a lot of things in the AI models, and which has to be used. But major drawbacks is that quality of clinical data. The clinical data is not that much of quality is coming up because people do not use the different standards which has been described by the different agencies. In AIIMS, what I will tell you, we have started using SNOMED City, systematized nomenclature in medicines on clinical terminology. So it is a clinical codes which can be used in the digital forms without knowing the digital code number of that clinical terminology. So it is the background it is running, and the quality of data, it has gone up, and internationally all the codes are acceptable. So these are the few things I'm putting into it. If any other questions from your side, you can ask me. I'm there.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Meher, for laying up a firm groundwork. Uh, Onwards to you, Dr. Ang. Would love to understand your thoughts about what Dr. Sushil has also touched upon. How does AI actually support clinical decision making, both from, say, I think we have seen a lot of radiological innovation in that space, and CDSS is being built in a large scale around it as well. So, can you touch upon those and let me know your thoughts?
Okay, I think currently it's still quite new. Some doctors have tried using, for example, generative AI such as ChatGPT. But in general, I think we are very cautious about using this for treatment. So what I can do is we may have some idea of some conditions that the patient may have, then we can check it out. So what we usually do is we actually ask for a second opinion, because doctors may not know everything. So we actually check with our senior colleagues or other colleagues from other fields. So that's what we do on right now, the current workflow. But with ChatGPT, because sometimes the senior doctors or your colleagues don't have the time, so you can actually use that to come up with some ideas to augment your decision-making process. For example, when you think that this patient has certain conditions which doesn't fit the diagnosis, the signs and symptoms, like for example, that can actually kind of like suggest, is there something else that can it be? And sometimes we also not very familiar what tests are available. So this can also kind of help us suggest a test. Right now, we have just moved to Epic system. If you look at Epic system, Epic system is a system from US. There's so many tests they can possibly order with different panels. So we also make sure that whatever we order is actually, we don't miss anything. So that's how where the AI can suggest, for example, you see a patient with certain conditions, is there something that you may want to order to rule out something else? That can kind of help you to actually distinguish the condition and what test to order. So that's what I think how some of these AI can actually help to suggest treatment, as well as suggest a second opinion, as well as certain things to look out for, or even for things like take a history of a headache, for example. Are there things that you may miss out? Do you need to ask other things such as photophobia, means a fear of light? Other things will help like neck stiffness, because in a busy clinic, there's so much things we want to ask. Sometimes doctors may just jump to the first thought in your mind. So the AI can say, do you want to ask more things to make sure it's fine? So this will actually help as a second check. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ang. That's very comprehensive. Ms. Rima, onwards to you. First of all, you did miss my gratitude. Thank you so much for joining at such early hour from here. And we have been discussing so much about clinical decision making. And I think Saudi has been doing some amazing work in precision medicine these days. I know that there are centers there which have been doing groundbreaking work in omics and proteomics in personalized care. Can you tell us a couple of details of projects that you're working upon, which harness the power of data processing through ML technologies and predictive analysis and early AI models for disease detection, new technology innovation, diagnosis, and perhaps also treatment planning?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. So I'm going to start about talking about how to harness predictive analytics in these centers that you just mentioned. Machine learning models can predict patient health trends and identify those at risk of complications, which allow us for proactive intervention. For example, one of the programs that we are using is Google's DeepMind Health, which actually developed an AI system that predicts acute kidney injury in patients, helping healthcare providers to take preventive measures. Another area that we are utilizing AI and machine learning in these centers is early disease detection. As Dr. Alok just mentioned, in his presentation, AI and machine learning algorithms can analyze vast patient data sets, such as medical images and genetic information, in order to detect diseases like cancer, heart conditions at an earlier stage, which will improve the treatment outcomes. For example, one of the programs that we are using is IBM Watson for oncology that utilizes AI to assist oncologists in treatment recommendations, considering the big amounts of medical literature and patient data in order to provide personalized therapy suggestions. We also use AI and machine learning to provide personalized treatment plans, because artificial intelligence enables the development of personalized treatment plans based on patients' unique genetics, based on their medical history, on their lifestyle data, which will lead to a more effective intervention. And finally, we are using artificial intelligence and machine learning in these centers to do more of the administrative work in order to optimize administrative efficiency through the automation of administrative tasks like appointment scheduling, billing. This will reduce the administrative burdens on healthcare professionals and allow them to allocate more time to patient care.
Thank you so much, Reema. That was fairly elaborate. So, if I understand correct, AI tools, or rather, in most cases, we are talking about predictive analytics tools, are the ones that are going to optimize each and every process of care delivery, right, to a certain degree, and make sure that the final outcome for the patient is a better outcome. Mr. Alok, coming on to that, you already spoke about how these innovations are changing marketing through omni and multi-channels in pharmaceuticals. Would love to understand your thoughts about supply chains. How do you think some of these systems are changing pharmaceutical supply chains? And you have been in the industry for so long, your insights would be very helpful.
Thanks, Dr. Sabir, for asking this question. And for me, supply chain in pharma, for example, if I have to really look at, is age-old, and it needs a complete innovation and transformation. So I remember, in my earlier organization, we had Managestake, and we had many tools which were available. They may not be exactly AI, but then definitely there was a part of AI which was also there. As you know, AI is very old. It's there since 60s. I remember I used to play chess on computer in 80s, and it was all through AI, So there was a use of AI there, as well as now we have got advanced analytics also. When we talk about supply chain management, we are looking at complete SNOP, processing, where right from the overall, because what is the problem of companies like Sanofi? You are globally present. You have got few biological products. You can't have unlimited inventories. These are imported products made in 1 or 2 plants in the world, and they have to be distributed across the world. So you have to really work on an inventory which should not really go dry, or which cannot be excess, at one place and completely dry at the other place. So there you require a lot of like earlier we used to use ABC analysis and things like that. But today we are really moving to quantitative techniques with the help of AI, where all this can be planned. Also, how do you really distribute, through how the shipment goes, how much time it takes. So all those planning of scheduling, for example, etc., that is being done through AI. Patients getting the medicines at their home. Okay, for example, there's a chronic care, diabetes, for example, insulins are needed. Now, are they really getting at the right time the medicines, they are replenished or not? So a lot of work is being done actually with AI in those areas also, when we talk about remote monitoring and then really ensuring that the supplies to patients are completely uninterrupted. So there are many areas of supply chain which are actually getting benefited through AI.
I think you're right, Mr. Harup. The resource optimization that we have been able to achieve with AI is unprecedented. And I
Yes.
think that is going to be able to help us provide access and affordability of these resources to a much larger part of the world than we are right now.
Yeah.
Extending that to a discussion I had with you, Dr. Meher, many years ago, rather. You have been in the industry, you have been helping doctors adopt to newer technologies for a very long time. And so this one is to you, Dr. Meher. I would love to know your understanding, uh, both as a physician as well as your understanding of how other doctors and uh, you know people, experts from the healthcare industry are adopting to these new technologies, because technology is moving at a breakneck speed. I have had some privilege in studying technology for a bit, but it's still very, very difficult always to keep track of what's going on. And if you are a practicing clinician, you don't have time for yourself. How do you have time to upgrade yourself? So, in your understanding, how are we adopting and how can we do it better? Doctor, you're on mute.
Yeah. See, adopting a technology, it was little bit difficult by the doctors before COVID. After the COVID, people have started and the using it, and they have built up the confidence to use the technology. Uh, I have 3 or 4 projects, research project on developing models, AI models for Indian data. One is it is in the final step. It is uh, early prediction of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. Okay, and already we have 7,000 patient data with genomics data. We are going to predict the models. Right now, the testing data, we are getting around 82% accuracy rate for predictions. Another one is the oral cancer, because many people they avoid to use the to go to the doctor when they have bleedings in their gums and all those things. But we have developed one tools. It is about to 92% accuracy rate. That tools will be implemented in their mobile lightweighted AI tools. It will be the mobiles. They can take the picture from the mobile cameras and they can predict it. These kind of things which we have already started experimenting it, and people's doctors have started to believing on this. Recently, we have tested in ChatGPT 4 the reporting of radiological images. Okay, earlier it was very difficult for us to get the accuracy rate. Right now, the accuracy rate is more than 90%. What it happens, I'm talking about it. We have limited number of radiologists, and when in the night, in the casualty or trauma cares, if the specialized radiologist is not available, you need a reporting at urgent basis, we can use that tools to understand that actually what report supposed to be coming up. So this sort of things, it has come up already, and people have started using it, but it is not 100%. But still, people have the confidence on this ChatGPT 4 to use these models. Third part is that it is very interesting part. We have made a robotic labs we have set up in our AIIMS. Okay, and we're getting a huge quantity of samples. Per day, we are getting about to be 0.5 million samples to be tested. Okay, it is huge samples we are collecting it. So what it happens, we have pre-analytic, analytic and post-analytic process in the all the samples. So during the reporting times, we have used one analytic models for reporting that which sample is supposed to be reported without seeing by the consultants. So 95% of the reporting has done through these analytic programs, and 5% is look after the doctors. So these analytic programs, it is looking after what is the patient conditions, what is the past report of the patients, what is the treatment is going on in which specialty. So a lot of parameters is considering it, and then it is passing that this report is correct. So it is supposed to be passed to the doctor, the treating doctor, to review the reports. So these sort of things we have already started using it. But thing is that when we'll talk about the virtual consultations, many critical patients, they are away from the hospitals, but they're required to follow up in particular period of time, either 2 months or 3 months of times. And it is very difficult for the patient to travel so much of distance in a difficult environments and health. So what we have done it, we are asking that you take the following test in this period of time and upload it. If the system is showing, indication is showing that you have to visit, then you can visit it. Otherwise, you don't visit it. So visiting of the hospital has gone down drastically around 30% right now. So these are the things we have adopted after the COVID. One of the main plus points of this predictive analysis, we are getting 14,000 OPD patient in a day in our campus. Okay, but we do not know that what type of patients are coming much more, because the season is changing, the type of disease is changing, and based on the disease, people's different seasonal disease, people are coming to the hospitals. So we have done another models that you can predict it, that what kind of patient will come in which season. So these sort of things already implemented, and we, based on the predictions, we are arranging our OPDs accordingly. You are allowing the patients, particular of the disease, because you are restricting the patients. Let's take somebody has a disease of dengue, and okay, and during this period of time, dengue is very high, and our predictive analysis is showing that the percentage of patients on dengue will increase up to this percentage. Based on this percentage, we are putting extra clinicians and the treatment plans in our OPD so that we can manage our crowds properly. These are the basic what we have got it from our recent development in AIIMS. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meher. That was fairly extensive, but some of these solutions have been very, very successful in optimizing the outcomes and access of care to the patient. And kudos to you for leading charge for that. Dr. Ang, I would love to have a brief discussion with you. Because you have been a practicing doctor as well as working with one of the largest, most advanced healthcare systems across the globe, would love to have your understanding on two things. One is the quality of data, as Dr. Meher pointed out early on. How is that and the data points that we are capturing affecting the ML systems that we are, predictive analytics that we are building upon, both from a use case as well as outcome perspective? And also touch a little bit upon what is digital therapeutics, because Dr. Meher brought about a very, very interesting point about trust, both from the stakeholders of the healthcare ecosystem, as well as the kind of use cases that we are building to optimize for the end patient. So would love to know your thoughts on that. And later on, Mr. Alok, I would love for you to talk about digital therapeutics from the pharmaceutical industry perspective as well. Over to you, Dr. Ang.
Yeah, thank you for asking these very good questions. For first question, I think is, as I even know, garbage in, garbage out. So if sort of doing data, actually my department does data analytics. So the first step we do is to clean data. So we actually remove data that is unlikely or keying wrongly, because I think a lot of times the data was actually meant for a different purpose, for documentation, and sometimes there was no error key. So the first step is to clean the data. So what I can say is that a lot of times the effort spent is actually on data cleaning. So in my other, my colleagues in other institutions, what they did was they actually created an AI system called Endeavor AI. So what they did was they spent time to actually consolidate data from different sources. So they come up with one source of truth. And based on that, they do a data cleaning to make sure that the data makes sense. And then after those data that's either too extreme or too unlikely. For example, if you have a HbA1c of 200, that's quite an unlikely number. Or your BMI of 200, that's another number that's not possible. We remove all these outliers, and then we come up with a more believable data set. One key thing about data is actually based on current practices, so there'll be biases. For example, traditionally, the study shows that certain race in America, they actually have poor outcomes. Is it because of the race they have poor outcomes, or is because the treatment actually favors them unfavorably? So if we use biased data to train the AI system, what happens? You will say that because certain races have poorer outcomes, let's not treat them, let's prioritize the other race. I think that's not the intent. So we need to remove this bias because of current practices to improve equity in healthcare. That's the first question. As for the second question, the digital therapy, I'm not an expert in this, but what I tried to do was actually to come up with certain programs that will actually help face-to-face, for example, diabetes prevention program. We tried to deliver it in a digital format. Because of COVID, we can't actually run this program on a face-to-face basis. So what I did was try to make people exercise at home. People listen to certain like dietary talks online. We find that the engagement is quite poor. So what I can do is need to improve it to be more interactive. As for other digital therapies, there's some on, for example, mental health. Instead of you seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist, you can speak to a mental health blog. Chatbot. So the chatbot can kind of like give you certain feedback. It's not meant for diagnosis, it's meant for like counseling, someone to talk to. So another of my colleagues actually done it in the more for elderly, for those who are lonely elderly, to see whether this can actually help prevent dementia or prevent the progression, because a lot of elderly in certain kind of countries, they actually don't have someone to talk to. So by having a chatbot to talk to, will that help to actually improve their interaction with others? That's something that we need to explore. Yeah, thank you.
That's actually very interesting. The mental health application of technology like AI chatbot and how it can improve outcomes across the board. Over to you, Rima. I wanted to discuss one very interesting thing. Building on to what Dr. Ang just mentioned. Now we have therapeutics in a big way interacting with people directly. As Dr. Meher also mentioned, that there are certain decisions that are taken which are purely algorithmic in nature and do not really have, which do not need and do not really have a live person interaction. At that point, there's a larger discussion going on in the public zeitgeist about the ethical considerations that are associated with AI and ML systems, especially in healthcare, which is so connected with, a public interface, a people-to-people transaction, a people-to-people understanding. So would love to know your thoughts about that. And along with that, I would also want you to help me understand a little bit on, there is a strong understanding among doctors and people in the healthcare industries, nurses, and everyone across the chain, with the fear that they might lose their position or their work structure because of the new system. So can you touch a little bit upon both? And yeah, thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely. So let me actually start by answering the first part and talking about the key challenges that we face on a daily basis. So one of the main challenges is data privacy and security. So of course, protecting patient data is paramount and essential, and breaches can lead to serious consequences. That's why we have to maintain the privacy and security of our patients' data. And in order to address this concern, we need to implement robust encryption. We need to implement access controls. We need to secure data sharing protocols in order to safeguard the patient's data. Second, bias and fairness. AI algorithms can inherit biases from training data, which might lead to unequal healthcare outcomes. And in order to address this concern, we need to regularly audit algorithms for bias and diversify the training data in order to establish guidelines for fair AI model development. Third, interoperability, integrating AI systems with existing healthcare infrastructure can be challenges. Therefore, we need to develop standardized interfaces and protocols to facilitate seamless integration and data exchange between systems. And last but not least, informed consent. Patients should be informed about the use of AI-driven treatments and give their own consent, because when we implement clear, informed consent procedures, the patients will be educated about the role of AI in their healthcare. And this actually will lead me to answer your second part of the question, which is, are we as doctors or physicians or maybe like normal employees, are we afraid of artificial intelligence to take our jobs? Well, some of the people might have that fear, but actually they have to utilize the new technology in order to help them improve their day-to-day jobs, their day-to-day tasks. Like, for example, most of us, we do repetitive tasks. So we can use artificial intelligence automation in order to automate these repetitive tasks so we can focus on more of the strategic side of the work. So in short, no, AI will not take our jobs. It's going to help us to develop our own capabilities.
Thank you so much, Reema. That was very interesting. Though I do have a small point of contention there. I have practiced in almost 20 countries as a physician, and I've worked in 197 of those. Explaining to the patient about the medical thought process is never easy, right? Because ages, decades of learning cannot be transferred in a single conversation. And then over and above that, for people who are not exactly experts in the field, to explain the need and the the positioning and the process of AI, I think is a tall ask for healthcare professionals, but we can always try. Mr. Alok, over to you. I wanted to touch upon three things with you. Point one, with Dr. Ang, we spoke a little bit about digital therapeutics. I would love to know your thoughts about, these new therapeutics being built up through the modeling systems that we are building, largely in predictive analytics. How do you see digital therapeutics coexisting with the traditional pharmaceutical industry? That's one. Secondly, as Reema mentioned, and we had this discussion right now about, job security and how the workforce is feeling. So as a doctor, I know that for a while after med school, a lot of my education in healthcare came from the medical representatives who were being helped and who helped us, learn the new technologies and the research going in the field, because most of the time it's very difficult to stay upgraded, the kind of patient loads that we share in Southeast Asia. So do you feel that that aspect of workforce is at danger or dwindling because of the new entrant that AI systems are? And also touch a little bit about the kind of data that we are building and insurance partners that are coming up. Mr. Alok, you're on mute. You're still on mute, sir.
Sorry. I said, what is the last part? You mentioned about 2 points, data therapy, therapeutics. We talked about digital therapeutics. We talked about staff, and the third point.
I wanted to understand how the pharmaceutical industry is interpreting EMR data sets as well as the applications across different industries, especially insurance systems being built around that.
Okay. So the first thing is on digital therapeutics. And I think it's a very important point, as large companies like Pfizer, Novartis, Sanofi, BMS, they're already getting into it. but it's just a new dive. I would say. They're also learning plus minus what can work, what cannot work, because there's so many other factors also involved in digital therapeutics, including the personal data, protection. So that is one part. The second part is how it is being done. As you will agree, there's a issue of one is patient initiation, another is, I would say, patient compliance, or patient adherence to treatment. Now, as far as pharmaceutical is concerned, we have been traditionally more in initiation with medicines. But now it's all about improving clinical outcomes. It's about how do you really improve compliance of the patient. And there, therapeutics or digital therapeutics plays a very important role. For example, how it has started recently, you would have seen inhalers in respiratory diseases like asthma and all that. Now, these are basically, they will actually warn the patient if the readings are getting deviated. Same thing is happening on continuous glucose monitoring. Now that, monitors are available today, which will also help the patient. And these recordings directly go to the doctor. They're all linked. So the doctor also knows how the patients are in terms of their control of sugar levels, and accordingly can tailor make the treatment also, or might modify it if needed. So I think these are some of the things which are happening, where pharmaceutical companies are partnering with medical association and digital therapeutic company also to see how do you really improve the clinical outcomes of patients. So this is on the first part. The second part is coming to on medical representatives' importance, and I think that is something which is going to be there. So you can't really replace medical representatives. However, there will be, the difference will be there. You have got some products which are OTC type. They are they're very popular. And doctors are aware of it. They have been using it for 20, 30, 40 years. Now, those are the products where the promo sensitivity is on the lower side, and there are some products which are new, latest, you have high promo sensitivity. So accordingly, the mix of rep and AI will work. So just to give you an example, if you look at, there was one study published in Europe, and it was very clear that when you are automating a plant, you can automate 100%. But when you're automating pharma marketing, you cannot automate 100%. The 60% of the jobs which reps does, machine learning cannot do, or AI cannot do. And there are 40% of the jobs which AI and ML can do, which rep cannot do. And I think this is the complementary effect which will be required. But what will happen is the reps will be required to be much more trained. And today, like we get medical scientific license, we get very specialized representatives when we are selling biotechnology or oncology products. So they go, if they make presentation to doctors along with the medical colleague as well. So the whole shift is taking place from share of voice to share of mind, because you require both. But there would be many products where if you want to really get the share of mind, your qualitative, and scientific exchange has to be much better. So you would be seeing that the overall quality of interactions of these specialists which are coming and meeting you from the company is much higher than the traditional reps. And gradually you will see those people, so they will be lesser in number, but high in quality. But complementary effect has to be there. So that is the second point. And the third point was on, you talked about, can you just, I just missed the third one. The third point was on
The
which...
perspective of the pharmaceutical industry towards EMR and their associations in insurance tech.
Okay. So here, I would say still, a lot of work is being done. But frankly, when we are talking about the stakeholder overall management, a lot needs to be done as well. Because see, insurance company objectives are completely different. And let me be very frank with you, there, if you see, and today many of the countries are really suffering because of the insurance, because they see a lot of negatives there also. In India, it is completely different, okay, where you have out-of-pocket expenses mainly in medicines and treatment. So I would say that gradually the things are changing. It is improving. We tried on, some of the products where we got success also. But I would say in India as of now, know, we are not really very well. It's very selectively. There are insurance company and pharmaceutical companies working together. Although it is some area where we said, okay, if the cost of treatment is very high, can we really involve the insurance company, so that if suppose there is some side effect which can happen with some medicine, it can be managed by the overall, and the companies can pay. So those are the things people are trying. So there are some programs being developed also in this area, but frankly speaking, I would say a long way to go.
I agree, Mr. Alok. The association seems unlikely, and it is certainly a long way to go. But I think what you touched upon is what Rima mentioned about, how AI tools is going to enhance the outcomes of a workforce and how it's going to help in structuring a tech-based approach along with a relationship-building approach. And what Dr. Sushil as well as Dr. Ang mentioned about trust building, both of stakeholders into the technology and of, the and patience into the stakeholders who are now new, who are now more enhanced through technological interventions as well. So I believe that it is going to be an ecosystem development, and maybe one thing, or rather slim, but a silver lining that came out of the whole process that the world went through during the 3 years of COVID was that we started understanding the integrations of systems like payment systems, like data systems, like tech solutions, not just in very, very tech forward industries, but also industries like ours, which are very human forward in nature. So I believe, of course, there's a long way to go. Just one small question to all of you before we close. Um, we have had this ongoing discussion on data privacy going on across the world in different areas, both on policy as well as in the public ecosystems. Um, we all are not experts in data technology, but we are an industry which is highly affected by the data privacy system. So, just through a single line or two, can you give me your thoughts on data privacy and how it's going to affect our industry going forward? Dr. Meher?
Yeah. Yeah, it is a hot topic in India right now. Yeah, what you have asked me. Yeah. Recently, the Indian Parliament has approved the DPDP, Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, has been approved from the Parliament of India. Here it has clearly mentioned that how to maintain the privacy and security of the data, because a lot of healthcare data already been breached in India as well as in abroad also. But one direction it has come up. Earlier in India, there is another bill, it was there, but it has not been approved. And that bill is waiting for the DPDP bill of India, that is DISA. DISA is another bill, it is meant for only healthcare, but it has not been approved. It is the public domains. When the DPDP has come up, then it will give a new light to this bill, and again it will give a direction that how to protect the the healthcare data. First, you have to understand what is the criticality of healthcare data. Patients supposed to know it, but many patients they do not know it. That who is the owner of his own medical record? It is itself the patients, and patients do not know much about that, how sensitive his medical record is that, and whether how it can be shared. When it is in the digital form, it has to be shared, because digitization means it is not will be placed in a single in one locations. It will be shared in different places whenever it is required. One question has come up, and same question you have already asked, that is the privacy as well as the legal ethical issues. In India, the ethical guideline has been already been given by the ICMR, and the direction already been given. Now DP and DPDP has come up, so it is a merging of this one. It will give a new direction to us that how to prevent and make the privacy of the data. So this is the few things it is coming up and it is revolving in India, but I do not know how much it will go up, because in India, some breach it has come up that the fine is, means the fine will be very high. It is around 2 lakhs, 250 lakhs Indian rupees. It will fine to that organization when some breach has come up. So it is very huge amount. Right now, it is a law now, and that law has to be how it will be implemented in future course of time. It will be known. Right now, it is totally hazy for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sushil, for an extensive understanding of the DPT in India, as well as the Disha bill, which is in process. Dr. Ang, your thoughts?
Well, I see very simply as number one, identifiable data. I think most people would not want identifiable data to be shared. Number two, non-identified data. So if you talk about non-identified data, like a 37-year-old man with a heart attack, and then this, is this data something that the person do not want to share in order to improve care for the rest of the population? I think most people are quite keen to share unidentifiable data. The third part is, even if you're not comfortable to share unidentifiable data or de-identified data, can you share synthetic data? So synthetic data, what they do is they actually use data, use statistical ways to actually change it. Because actually for a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning type of algorithms, actually they don't need the unidentifiable data. They don't even need real data. All they need is the statistical property of the data. That's where synthetic data can come in to help train it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ang. Rima, your thoughts? You have been an expert in this field. Of all of us, I believe you are the one who knows most about data privacy.
Thank you so much. So yeah, data privacy is the cornerstone of trust in the digital age that we live in today, which actually requires protection of people's sensitive information and thoughtful regulation to balance innovation with security. So we should always remember that we must keep it ethical, we must keep it fair, and work together to ensure everyone gets the top-notch care they truly need.
Thank you so much, Rima. Mr. Alok, your thoughts and closing?
Yeah. So I think Dr. Sushil covered it very well. That, you know, as far as this is concerned, it's a very important point where government is coming with regulations. So regulations are very critical, one. Number two, following these ethics and data protection is also the need, which is there with everybody involved in the process, all stakeholders. But third, very important area which has not been covered is cybersecurity. And I think that is going to be the key. If I look at, because ultimately we, you know, it's not about leaking. You know, leaking is one part which can be, you know, you can prevent it through some punishments and penalties. But what about the overall, you know, hacking and other things which are happening today with other data? So that is also one area which I think overall is a issue which is much macro. I think many governments are working on cybersecurity, and I think that will play an important role also in the protection of data. So that's what I wanted to say.
Very well said, Mr. Alok. Thank you so much. As a closing, I would just like to add that, you know, the data is a very finite entity that we have, but the way we analyze it and the way perspectives that we look at it are very, very fluid. And as Dr. Ang mentioned, we don't even know the full potential of what healthcare data entails, because we hardly have it, as Dr. Meher mentioned in the first place. But the point is that we are also at a place where we have to balance out the digital public good that we can achieve from the kind of data that we are now collecting and processing, and the kind of outcomes that we can generate for the good of the people who are most disenfranchised, versus our fear into data security and what can happen if some of these processes are made public. Because I remember of many years ago when I was practicing in the rural part of India, and we had an open session where we had around 50 odd husbands or women talking about menstrual problems very openly in a public forum with all respect and all genuinity. without any form of shame or concern about sharing that information. So sometimes we do have to consider it in terms of the overall good that we are going to impart to the system, as well as my 2 cents to all your esteemed experts. And thank you so much for joining. Thanks a lot, Imran, for having us all over.
Thank you, Sabine, and thank you all the speakers. It was an excellent eye-opener, the presentation, the panel discussion and the presentation as well. We started with technology, and in the end, what I gathered from the whole panel discussion is technology is important, but the human aspect, the men or women or people behind it is what matters. And security is at the top of the list of everybody's priorities right now, with so much happening in the technology space, especially in healthcare, where every day millions of data is shared between pharmaceuticals and pharmacies and doctors and labs. The same patient has 10 touch points when he's going through a healthcare journey. So thank you so much again. It was an enlightening journey, and we heard you. We learned a lot. We'll take this conversation forward on LinkedIn. Please connect with each other. Please connect with the audience. I'm sure you'll be getting a few more requests on LinkedIn. Your profile is being shared and with everyone. So thank you again for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you with us. And we are running a bit short on our time. So thank you so much again. You're free to leave, or we can move you backstage. And next presentation will be from Arun Sundrial. Mr. Arun Sundrial is going to talk about an overview on clinical research and trial. So Arun Sundrial is the Area Director of Clinical Operations for North and South Asia. In this role, he provides strategic direction, leadership, and management for India, Hong Kong, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, South Korea, and Taiwan to secure a successful completion of clinical deliverables within clinical studies. Arun has more than 22 years of experience in the clinical research industry. Arun holds a PhD degree in biotechnology. His therapeutic experience spans multiple areas, including oncology, neurology, cardiology, dermatology, respiratory, and infectious diseases. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Arun Sundrial, Senior Director, Clinical Operation, Area Head, North and South Asia, PPD, which is part of Thermo Fisher Scientific. Welcome, Arun. Stage is yours. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Imran. Thank for such a introduction. So, yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for this opportunity to share my thoughts about Asia Pac. I just wanted to check if everyone can see my slide deck. Is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the Asia Pac and how clinical trials are growing within the Asia Pac and how it's going there. So to start with that, probably I would start with that in pandemic time, we learned that how the disease no border. But the same now applies to our drug development process also. And we see why I said this, probably I'll talk in a couple of slides and you know that. Now I realize that the audience is here mostly from Asia Pac, but just some of the interesting facts which I shared with my global colleague also. What is Asia and Asia Pacific? So yeah, when we include Australia, New Zealand also to it, it's Asia Pacific, and generally most of the companies or that perspective, we take it as a Asia Pac. It's largest continent, it's actually two continents if you talk about it, hosts 61% of world population, around 4.6 billion, have languages, 2,300 languages. Again, most populated city, yet sometime if you see top 10 polluted city also, you find it from the Asia Pac, not to matter of pride, but just to share with the group here. Digital transformation, again, we see a huge number. That's yes, the one is because of the population, but the otherwise, if you see in terms of the percentage growth also, we see a high percentage of growth within the Asia Pacific. Now, the question comes why clinical trials are moving towards the Asia Pac. Is that something which we are, we should know, and why it is coming? So one, from the unmet need, from growing demand, so large population, which I talked about earlier. The same other way around, you see a very two different aspect of it. So you see aging population in certain geographies. So for Japan, for Korea, for Hong Kong, for China, you see now those are getting into the age population. But overall, if we go with the Asia Pac, it's expected by 2050 we will have around 1.3 billion population, which will be 50 plus. So that's again make it up when it comes to age-related disease. That's an ideal place for that. At the same time, it has the highest birth rate. Some of the countries, highest populated country, if you talk about it, talk about Bangladesh, which is highest density of the population in particular geographic area. Though we contribute around 61% into world of there, but there's 2/3 of disease burden come from Asia Pac. So there definitely there's so many patients which we require for clinical trial. You get it from the Asia Pac. Coming to innovative technologies, so that there you also see the good progress in APAC. So 85% of APAC organization has begun the transformation. When it comes to innovation, active substance registration, you see second strongest R&D pipeline for the world within the APAC. Again, you see a large number of investigators who are trained on the clinical trial experience. So you get a trained investigators and you get a patient population, which is a treatment naive. And again, the cost is one of the things that, conducting a study in APAC would be 30 to 60% cheaper, depending on which part of APAC you are doing it. Now, this is just to show in terms of segmentation how the market looked like. And I divided it into 4 categories. This is based on the pharmaceutical market size. So on your right-hand side down, you see a mature market where the government push and they control the healthcare expenditures. And most of these markets are covered or are reimbursed markets. So Japan is one of the market which lead this way, followed by Australia and New Zealand. The other, which is more a priority market and known as, I would say, powerhouse for the Asia Pac, is you see exponential growth in these markets. So China is a great example, and I'll present some of the China data on the later part. But then you have Korea and India also emerging as a powerhouse for the Asia Pac when it comes to clinical trials. Then you have some of the emerging market and where you see that there's a demand for healthcare and the population is aging and you see a fastest growth. So for example, in Indonesia, it's one of the, it's densely populated, but it's going to be the 4th largest economy by 2050. So that's something which we there. And then you have other countries, where you see a good demand in terms of the healthcare as well as from the clinical trial perspective. The down one on the left-hand side, you see that's we call opportunistic market, that selective focus you see here. So like Hong Kong is the market, which is again aging population, mostly government control healthcare there. But what you see there is the government is spending a lot of money when it comes to the development of biotech and pharma. Similarly, in Singapore, you see Malaysia, we see similar. Thailand, again, we see when it comes to vaccine perspective, it's a big market for clinical trials, some of the infectious disease. So that's about the market. Let me take you through some of the key players in clinical trial market. On your right-hand side, you could see that this is the Asia Pac market for these. So for biopharmaceutical companies, which is from a small biotech to a very large biopharmaceutical companies, that's one of the players we have. They basically do the study or they fund the study, which we call them a sponsor. Similarly, medical device company. I put it as separately medical device company because generally medical device company doesn't like to call as a pharmaceutical companies. The other one which we have is academic and research institute, which sometimes we refer as a ARO. These institute does the study, but at the same time you see with these institute, they are either funding the studies or they are running their own clinical trials. So that's again a big market if you see by the number. And the 4th player is a CRO, which called contract research organization. Generally, it's a biopharm or medical device company. They outsource the business to CRO and CRO run the studies for there. Now coming to the CRO market, how it looked like, and in this slide, you could see that the size of the market, how it's expected to grow. So I think China is leading the way with highest percentage. And like in Europe, you have a big five. Now I would say in Asia Pac, we have also a big five, which is China, Japan, India, Australia, and South Korea. And you will continue to see a clinical research growth, I would say, in near future in these countries. Yes, you will see in other countries also, but these countries will grow significantly. Right now, we say around 21% of the global market clinical trials is there in the Asia Pac. Now, this is both way, I would say. So it is not the global work which come to the Asia Pac, but also the Asia Pac companies which spread which does the global development. China outrightly go largest market share, which is around 33%. We expect around 14.6 CAGR. So from $16 billion to $33 billion market, you will see in the next 5 years. So that's kind of a growth we do expect in the Asia Pac. Now, going to the trial growth within Asia Pac, and this is on right-hand side, you see the graph from 2012 to 2021. As you could see that it's grown significantly from 4,500 plus to 7,700. And last year, it's grown further. So if I was looking into the data, and Asia Pac has contributed and has participated more than 9,600 studies, just 20% higher than 2021. Now, globally, we see the number of studies reduced, especially because large number of COVID studies has ended towards 2021 or 2022. But Asia Pac has increased. One of the reasons is that we still see the Asia Pac inclusion within the global studies, as well as the domestic market continue to grow. So China, like for example, we see a lot of global development within the China is happening. So plus the Asia Pac contribution has also increased. So earlier Asia Pac within the global study perspective used to represent around 52%, which has increased again 2% and to a 54%. And you could see that the growth is very steady, double-digit growth, especially from 2016 onwards. Next slide, it's slightly different. I talk about Asia Pac in general, but where we see a growth, and I try to put it a growth graph for you. So you could see that China really take the way. It's around 45% share when it comes to Asia Pac side, which is expected to increase which is an increase in 64% in 2022. And Japan was in the second place up to 2021, but in 2022 it's gone down. That's there. But India has grown up from 10 to 19% in 2022. Similarly, South Korea has gone down, but we expected South Korea to grow further. Australia remains same, and we expect China to continue to grow for next few years around 15 plus CAGR. Now, trend within the Asia Pac, if you see, I earlier talked about high growth within the China. That's because of the global trial as well as the domestic trial. So you can see the 76% is their domestic trial or a global development, which they're doing it from the China. Japan is most popular clinical trial destination for big pharma. So if you see top big pharma, 20 big pharma companies, all does their studies in Japan, and that's one of the things is because it's a big market from commercial standpoint for these pharma, plus it's a reimbursed market. South Korea leads the way of novel drug designing. So when I say novel drug designing, like umbrella studies or open platform studies, you see a lot of work in South Korea is happening to this. The other domain, which is I'll talk about, is the cell and gene therapy, where we see a lot of work in Korea. In fact, South Korean MFDS is the first regulator within the APAC, which has come with the cell and gene therapy regulations. Australia again remain a hub for multinational clinical trial, or what we call multi-regional trial. First in human or phase 1 study. So 95% of their studies are global studies. Now FIH or phase 1 is basically the fast timeline, the predictability which Australia brings, plus with some of the tax benefit on the R&D expenditure, which Australia offered to the world. So that's why we see a lot phase 1 study. 21 has contributed towards more COVID, that's treatment as well as the vaccine or the preventive medicine perspective. But in 2022, we see the COVID studies gone down, and then area CMS, metabolites, where we see that more work has picked up. So that's in trend perspective. Just as a conclusion, would like to share, we expect Asia Pac to grow, continue to grow on specific location for short time, and then in other location in long-term perspective. Asia Pac is already known for its outsourcing to the Asia Pac, but now it's the outsourcing from Asia Pac also we see, so which is really good to say. So it's not only from the delivery side, we deliver what work gets given or what study is there, but we also started outsourcing the study to other countries outside the Asia Pac. China, as I shared, will continue to grow. South Korea, for short period, you would see that has gone down, but it will continue to grow, we expect, because it's an attractive location when it comes to clinical R&D perspective. World-class medical institute, if you see top 100 medical colleges or medical hospitals in the world, you find a lot from Korea. So we expect, Korea R&D will grow, especially in cell and gene therapy domain. Australia again is a prime destination for multinational global studies and phase 1, and will continue to do. The last is the coming to the India part, which will historically, was a generic market, but the recent data suggests that, Indian companies are now working on the cutting edge technologies or cutting edge areas like immuno-oncology, CAR-T therapy area. And with the government as having a renewed focus on in this sector, in few years, we see that, India, I would say, sitting in a cusp, and we see that landscape in India will shift dramatically in clinical trial. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arun, for that expert opinion and sharing the statistics on how Asia is leading in terms of clinical trials. Honestly, from my perspective, when I was doing a bit of desk research on understanding clinical trials, this is not what I found. This was really informative. I'm sure everybody listening to you right now has got a new perspective on clinical trials in the region, and this will help them strategize in their businesses and how they can contribute in the collaboration. So I leave the platform to you to start the panel discussion. I welcome all the panelists to join and continue the discussion on clinical trials and the role of stakeholders in current drug development system. Over to you, Arun, again.
Okay, thank you. I think talk about that. I think Alok was supposed to lead.
Yes.
So Alok, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Arun, and pleasure to listen to you. And also, I would like to welcome here Dr. Anand. In fact, Dr. Anand serves as chairman of Govind Holdings, a senior Singapore headquartered based company, which is focused on pharma supply chain, entrepreneurship, education, and venture investments. Dr. Anand is Asia's leading healthcare and biotech investor with 22 years of active investment. And he has invested in more than 65 investments globally. He has 25 successful portfolio, which includes 2 unicorn also, which exist till date. So I think that's great, Dr. Anand. A pleasure to meet you. And Dr. Arun, we just heard your lucid talk. To introduce myself, I am Alok Khatri, and I have been with pharmaceutical industry for 36 years. So I worked in Sanofi as a senior director in India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and then I moved to Southeast Asia for Southeast Asian countries for around 4 years. And then moved back to India, Kerala, as as a president. So basically, have entire experience around pharma and biotechnology. So great, and I think what I would do is, before we get into the panel discussion, I would request Dr. Anand to say a few words from his side.
Thank you very much, Alokji, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my insights. I think we are at an interesting phase of evolution in the pharmaceutical industry. Over the last 25 years, what we have noticed is that the pharmaceutical industry has been continuously investing in innovation. and our R&D expenditure has gone up substantially. Despite our investments in R&D and despite the investments in innovation, there is still a dearth in terms of new drug approvals. And when it comes to the tackling the diseases, the new drug approval rate is not happening as fast as what it should have happened compared to the investments that are going in the innovation industry. And hence, it is important for all of us to recognize that while we have a challenge in terms of getting new drug approval, we also have a challenge or an interest in terms of ensuring that their drugs are essentially researched properly. The clinical trials for the new molecules are done effectively, efficiently, and efficaciously with full integrity without any compromising on the data. And at the same time, contribute to the evolution of the new molecules that is happening worldwide. So this is one trend that I noticed. The second aspect I would like to highlight is like what Dr. Arun has highlighted in his presentation was the markets are evolving. We are noticing that not just India, especially, is becoming not just younger, but it is also catching up with aging issues. We are seeing aging related issues in other markets, needless to say about US and Europe, but almost globally, it is a trend now. And with aging issues come a lot of burden for the governments to spend on R&D and on healthcare expenditure. What does this mean for the clinical trial industry? It means that the clinical trial industry has to be now done more promptly, more efficiently, and in a faster and speedier manner so that new drugs can be approved as quickly as possible. But is that what is happening? The answer is no. And hence, we have a role to play to understand what efficient collaborations, partnerships, what efficient knowledge sharing and data sharing can be done so that the best of the approvals can happen in the new chemical entities. When you look at Asia, we are more of a generic player. And most of the pharmaceutical industry players in Asia focus on contract research and manufacturing, which is called as the CRAMS. So it's a fantastic opportunity that exists right now in CRAMS because the liquidity in the market is very huge. As you noticed from some of the recent IPOs and public listings of new pharmaceutical companies, the listings have been, the valuations are extremely rich and exciting. So the markets are giving very good valuations for such companies. But at the same time, what we have to do is, what we are noticing is that the generic companies in Asia, especially in India, are investing a higher percentage of their sales into R&D. So they are moving up the value chain, and hence the demand for clinical research industry is likely to go up. So what used to be about a single-digit outsourcing of clinical trials of the global pharma market pie, now it is transformed into a double-digit percentage of the global pharma market pie that is outsourced towards Asia. So in my opinion, Asia is going to play a very important role, a pivotal role in the clinical trial industry, in the contract research industry, and in the pharmaceutical industry, not just because there is a demand, but also because there is a need to bring down the prices of the drugs, make drugs more accessible and affordable across globally. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nicely said. And I agree with you that the cost effectiveness is a very important part, especially when you look at India and Asia. And I think the clinical trials, when they are done here, it's a benefit. Actually, it's a win-win for patient and definitely for the overall healthcare. But more importantly, what I have also seen that in clinical trials, especially in our part of the world, the patients sometimes are not very willing, as you will see in the West, and it's very, very important to, for the doctors also to say, okay, you become part of this clinical trial. Although there's so many benefits they get because they're part of the trial, and first is the best in class medicine, what they are going to have. But I think maybe the media or whatever, the role which has been played overall makes people suspicious to get enrolled in trials. And many of my doctors friends tell me that. What do you think about this, Dr. Anand, and how do we take care of it?
I can share some experiences being on the board of Quintiles many years back. I served on the board of Quintiles for about 5 years before it was acquired. Based on my study of the clinical research industry, there are two important aspects. One is patient education. Patient education, consumer education plays a very important role in highlighting the importance of clinical trial. There is a fear of the unknown, especially when you're testing new drugs. But when you're testing generic drugs, especially with enhanced bioavailability or with enhanced PK/PD profile, I think that fear can be mitigated because you already have an existing indication that is in play. Hence, I've noticed that repurposing of drugs or generic drugs, clinical trials is much easier as compared to the new molecule entities. So the patient education plays an important role. So is the consumer education. The second part is trust. Trust between the payer, the pharmaceutical companies, the government, and all the stakeholders who are involved. I think we need to do more to increase the level of trust. And when I say trust, it relates to the integrity of the data, the protection of the data, and how data can be used for more enhanced knowledge learnings between academia and between industry. What are we seeing today? That the academia research collaborations are happening very well. But the moment the industry comes in the picture, where there are commercial benefits, shortcuts may have been adopted in some places. And that is the reason as to why there is a misalignment of interest, a misalignment of trust that actually happens between the various stakeholders. So we all have a role to play to improve the trust, transparency, and also understand the benefits of doing a good ethical clinical trial, which is good for society and for the patients by large.
Thanks, Dr. Anand. I think very well said that, it's all about patient
Alokji, I would like to highlight one more point. I think the regulators here also have an important role to play, Alokji. The reason I say this is because if there is compromise on the regulatory aspect, because sometimes when you do clinical trial, I've seen many of the innovators, they're in a hurry to get their trial done, executed. And especially if there's a large pivotal trial, be it at phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3, most of the time it's phase 2 and phase 3. So what I notice is that the regulators have an important role to play in two aspects. One is they need to catch up with speed in terms of the knowledge and the evolution, because in the previous panel we heard about the role of AI, machine learning, deep learning, that is going to significantly transform the way clinical trials are going to be conducted. Now, obviously, we will expect that regulators also move fast with the pace of technological innovation that is happening. But is that really happening? That's number one, a question that we all need to ask. Number two is the bureaucracy that exists in some of the emerging markets for approvals to happen. Is that really happening? And so if we are able to have good regulatory bodies put in place who are educated, well-informed, and are able to take quick decisions, it will be a win-win for all the parties involved.
Very well said, because regulation is something which is so critical, because if you are having ease of doing a trial in your country, a lot of things get sorted out. And then automatically your awareness, education, trust, it starts, because awareness is also, it starts with the regulation, So if the regulation is pro, or it is really an advantage in the country for clinical trials, things will improve. But are you people working with the regulators, especially in this area? Because for India, it can be a big hub, and Asia can be a big hub for clinical trials in future.
I can speak on behalf of Singapore. Singapore is making gigantic steps in terms of essentially ensuring consumer education, patient education is done. Like recently, I saw an ad in the newspaper about a new diabetes trial that is happening in Singapore by a big pharma, and where they were encouraging the patients to come forward, or subjects or people to come forward for the trials. At the same time, what caught my attention was the risk benefits that exist in a trial. So they are being transparent. At the same time, they are being fully cognizant of the upside as well as the potential downside that could exist for an NCE trial. Now, in my opinion, I feel there is an important role for regulators, and not just regulators, but also the SMOs and the CROs who are involved in doing these clinical trials to essentially brief and make patient aware of the benefits of the clinical trials down the lane.
So thanks. And moving to Dr. Arun, this is very important when we look at decentralized clinical trials. They are actually gaining a lot of importance in today's world. A lot is being talked about them. Can you throw some light how they can help and how they will grow, especially in Asia and Asia Pacific?
Yeah, thank you for this question. So I think a couple of things here when we talk about, and I think what Dr. Anand talked about, slow in clinical trial. And one of the reason we have is that it's highly regulated field. It takes 12 years to get a medicine into the market, and your patent is only for 20 years. So, and the cost could be anything between $1 billion to $3 billion for one molecule to come into the market. Out of 50,000, one comes. So it's highly regulated field, and that's why sometimes we see delays. The other thing which we talk about, the patient trust and patient ease, that is something which we still see in the Asia Pac. So to some of these things, I would say, which is coming, people coming with a decentralized trial, use of technology in clinical trial. That is something which is coming. Right now, we see a limited adoption within the Asia Pac. When it was started, this concept is in the picture for quite some time. But during the COVID, when we realized it, the adoption has increased because there was no way you can visit the hospital. There was no way. So that time, everyone come with that, and we saw that adoption has increased for decentralized trial. Now patients are more comfortable to take things remotely, wear digits, some of those gadgets, and report it through some of those gadgets. Similarly, doctors are also very comfortable with that, and that's why we see adoption to digital clinical trial increase. Some of the countries, I would say, after the pandemic measure has gone down, they've taken it back, and now in some countries, because being an Asian, we have this, we would like to see more face-to-face rather than having a remote. But we still see that there's a huge growth opportunity because it saves the time, not only for the patient, but for the doctors also, and they need not to travel. And a lot of things which can be remotely reported. So directly, if you're wearing a device, your everything can be captured, whether it is vital or ECG or any other thing. Yes, it does raise some of the data privacy issue, which I'll not get into this meeting here. But those things really fasten the process. And again, it's very transparent. Anytime anyone can see that. If you have access, you could see that what has happened, what time, and what has been done. So I do see a great opportunity from Asia Pac perspective that it will continue, it will grow in that, but adoption will vary country to country. That's what I would say. So you may see some of the country like India, where we see a technology adoption is high, could be very fast, but you may not see in Japan or in Korea because they are very high on that, but they have an aging population. So sometimes they may not adopt, and they still feel to be more face-to-face or to get a more traditional trial. Or some countries, it is by the regulation, you can't do the things. So to short your answer, yes, I do see that this will grow. It will grow in a part of Asia Pac. Some countries will take a little more time, some will be much faster. You are on mute, Doctor.
So I said it's what you said is very pertinent, because in a country like India, it makes a lot of sense, because of the, I would say, the heterogeneity in all areas. So it will benefit everybody, and I think this is something which can grow. And many other countries where your regulations are not favorable, once they see the advantages of these decentralized clinical trials, they will also like to really get into it, and they may be late adopters. So this is something which definitely is being talked about quite a lot in the recent years, what I see. And since we are on this topic, I would also like to understand here from Dr. Anand, real world evidence is something which has been also talked about for the last many years. That instead of clinical trials, many organizations and I would say even healthcare overall is now looking at the data which is available, and also the real world evidence which is there. So what would you like to say how it is going to emerge in future, Dr. Anand?
Real world evidence plays an important role. In fact, now there are two types of real world evidences that we actually notice. One is symptomatic and the other is, which is the phenotypic one, and the other is the genotypic one. There are advances made in genotypic analysis where we are essentially getting access to knowledge and information. And that's why the birth of the prognostic industry, the diagnostic industry, in fact, is no longer now relevant. That is what is becoming important is the prognostic industry. So the real world evidence is based on the advances made in genomic analysis is really playing a very pivotal role and a key role in shaping up the understanding of the clinical trials going forward. Well, on the phenotypic type, it obviously plays an important role. Depends on the type of the therapeutic segment or the type of disease or the disorder that the clinical trial is being progressed. Let's take an example of breast cancer. Now, in the past, the analysis of breast cancer would have been done based on certain phenotypic as well as some genotypic analysis. But if you look at now, with the intervention of artificial intelligence, you are able to actually pick up tumors which, with the help of medical imaging, which are not visible with a naked eye. Now that essentially is an advancement. And that, along with the real world evidence, plays a very crucial role in quick diagnosis and also accurate diagnosis of a particular disease or a particular disorder. And I think these type of advances will play a crucial role or will play an important role in the complete evolution of the pharmaceutical, hospital, healthcare, and the clinical trial industry. Now, what is the key challenge here? The key challenge here is the ability to share data. Do we have a database, an universal database where we can actually rely on a standard database where we can rely on either set by the government or by a chain of hospital organizations, which is beneficial for the clinical trial. Now, that is what needs to be enhanced. And so I encourage through this particular platform, governments to come forward and to set up databases of patient records, databases without violating the PDPA or without violating the personal data information, but also to understand a bit more clearly about what influences a particular expression of a particular disease. If it is in the field of cancer, is it diet, is it lifestyle, is it stress, or is it basically the climate or the socioeconomic conditions? So this type of questionnaire and this type of information sharing needs to be enhanced, according to me, across different hospitals, different CROs, and government organizations. When you look at a multicentric trial across various countries, let's say, for example, now I know that the National Cancer Center in Singapore has got several consortium partners. There it plays a very important role because then you're talking about not just essentially real-time evidence, but we're also talking about intellectual property. How the intellectual property can be protected. What is the base intellectual property and what is the forward intellectual property and who owns what? So if there is understanding both on the academic side, the research front and the commercial front, then real breakthrough can be achieved. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Anand. I think you have explained it very nicely. And, this is what, if we look at the practical aspects of, day to day, I think real world evidence can also play a very, very important role. going forward. And with the AI, as you rightly said, I think it will be a great benefit, because there are a lot of advantages if you go for real world evidence, and especially for a country like India and also other Asian countries. This is something which is definitely, surely, and it is catching up, but it's also catching up in even advanced countries, or if I look at even Europe and US. So this is the future in a way, where we will look at real world evidence much more in depth and intensively. So thanks for that. And moving to Dr. Arun, what are the challenges you are seeing today when you have to conduct clinical trials in Asia Pacific? Because we have a population which is really large. We have the advantage of cost effectiveness, but we have got some challenges as well. So can you really highlight some of the two or three challenges which are there, and what can be done to overcome them quickly?
Yeah, so thanks for this. And I think couple of, I'll say some of the challenges. One of the big challenge which we have is Asia Pac is so decentralized, so big, and there is no like a EMEA. You have EU regulation, for Europe. You can kind of have a one set, and then you can go there. But in Asia Pac, we don't have. Each country have their own set of rules. So something, if I'm doing it, it's compulsory or necessary here. It's why I need to take special permission. Some countries is open. So that's create a variability within the countries, kind of create a challenge for me. Regulations are very different, in each country to conduct the study. Second part is the translation, either to regulatory or to patient material. So for India example, if I want to do a study in India and have to take a by regulator geography, I have to have at least 15 translation for a patient material. So that's a big challenge for me, because that add into my time lines. And then if they're reviewing it, then it's go further. So like what earlier we talked, it take time, but that's one of the reasons that we have to do it. If I go in Korea, I have to translate all the document in Korean, or in Japan in Japanese, and then so far. So whenever we do a study, that's the second thing which comes to us, okay, we have to do a translation. It's going to take a 2 month, for these many countries. And that's the other challenge which I see for conducting a study there. The third is, and that's, I would say, more on developing market. In developed market, we see a lot of awareness about the clinical trial, but in some countries, it's like a negative how clinical trial being projected. I think India was one of them, where that's pre-COVID, when you have a situation where, it's clinical trial being projected in a negative way. So that's other challenge, because whether it's a patient or it's a regulator, they first start with the suspicious rather than, to look into that. Though I would say during the COVID, it has helped for clinical trial industry perspective. We say general public awareness has increased a lot about clinical trials. So, earlier no one knows it, but after that people know there were phase 1 trial and what is phase 4 trial. So those are some of the things which has happened, but that still we see as a challenge. I think in some part of that, which we say patient literacy, the participation in the clinical trial, that is again a challenge. Some countries it is still okay, and it's a depend on the doctor's interest also. Like I would say nowadays, if you go, especially in India, some of the top doctors, they are no longer interested to do studies, because they believe it is more pain for them rather than gaining anything on that. So that's some of the challenges which we have.
Thanks. I think one point which you brought about was very nice, that, post-pandemic, the overall awareness and even the processes have changed. Nobody thought earlier that you can do clinical trials in 9 months, all the phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and launch the product, So this has, naturally there are some advantages, some disadvantages, and they have been talked about. But I think the most important part is that post-COVID, the awareness has increased. Also, if you look at even like, I remember in Sanofi, we used to have SCQ, hydrochloroquine, and this is our research. Now, people were talking about that whether it can be used in COVID or not. But frankly, when we did solidarity study, which was done very fast, it was found that it is not meant for COVID patient, although many countries started using it. So I would say what happens is with increasing clinical trials, it works either ways. You know whether the drug works or not in another, associated indication. Also, sometimes when you see the side effect of the drug, and you find, okay, the drug can be used, like, for example, there have been drugs like where they have been for one indication they were discovered, but ultimately used for some other, like minoxidil and all that. Earlier it was meant for something else, and then it went into antifungal. So I think overall, with clinical studies, you get a lot of information on the usage of the drug and the varied usage of the drug. So this is something which I have seen is a very critical part overall. So clinical trials definitely are important. Clinical trials have challenges because of some other issues which you all have discussed. But my point is here that since we are going to close due to paucity of time, a quick word maybe from Dr. Anand, and then I will come back to you, Dr. Arun. What do you think? How do you really look at Asia Pacific scenario and say, okay, for clinical trials, this is the way forward, maybe in 1 or 2 lines?
According to me, Asia is the future of the clinical trial hub. It is also the future of the biotech hub and innovation hub. No longer Asia will be seen as a low-cost center of manufacturing, but it will be a low-cost center of innovation. And as we see more and more pharmaceutical companies increasing their percentage of sales in R&D, and as we see more and more outsourcing happening towards Asia Pac, the role of Asia will be significant in pivotal clinical trials for treatment of new diseases and important evolution of new drugs. What I would like to see going forward is in a patient cohort size in a trial, I would like to see more and more patients from Asia getting enrolled and getting accepted, and that data to get accepted by the regulatory authorities in the West, be it the EU or the FDA in the US. If we do that, then there are 2 advantages. One is the speed of recruitment, and the other is access to treatment-naive patients, which I think is a major advantage that Asia brings on the table. Last but not the least, it is all about making healthcare more accessible and affordable. If we are able to conduct a clinical trial where the ultimate cost of the medicine is affordable by both the emerging markets as well as the developed markets, then it's a win-win for all the parties. Finally, I feel that partnership plays an important role, and the only way to learn new things is through collaboration and partnerships between all the stakeholders, including the regulatory bodies. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I take the word collaboration very, very critical, amongst all the stakeholders to really ensure that the benefit of clinical trials to go to more and more patients in Asia Pac. And data, I think it's a very important part, the quality of data which comes out of a clinical trial. The rules have to be there, how to make them stringent on quality. So thank you, Dr. Anand, and Dr. Arun, a few words from your side to close.
Yeah, so thanks for this. I think definitely clinical trial expected to grow in our region. And that's, as a researcher, I see it's beneficial for the patients because earlier what Dr. Anand said is like, we don't know whether that medicine is going to work because we see a genetic variation. Some drug work very well, on Caucasian or Hispanic, but not on the Asian race. So that's, I think we have really a benefit there. We talk about diversity in the patient pool, and that is really important when you submit the data to the regulator. And that per se, Asia Pac really brings a diversity patient pool perspective also. So that's really there. And as I would say, market see this, or it's the economics which see that, okay, what is the advantage of having a APAC in the clinical trials? And that's why we see this market is growing. At the same time, I would say we have now a lot of good clinical development from APAC side. So a lot of companies, they started developing there. So earlier, I would say, which is like known as more a copycat, you make it and somebody has made it, I just made a copy of it. But now I would say innovation is there. So a lot of new, whether it is NCE or new biological product, or even from technology standpoint, you see a lot of innovation from APAC side. So we are not only to hub for the outsourcing that, okay, let's do the the cheap thing can be done there or cost perspective. But when it comes to innovation, that can go from Asia Pac to outside. A number of, if you see patent file or some of the new molecule, you see a large number of representation from APAC.
Thank you, Dr. So I think I would only say 2 words very critical, what both of you mentioned. One is collaboration and other is diversity. So with this, I would like to really close this session and thank both of you for very informative panel discussion. And I give it back to our Imran.
Thank you so much, Alok Khetri. Thank you, Arun, and thank you, Dr. Anand, for joining us today. It was informative, very nice session. A lot of key points touched. Thank you again for joining us. It was a pleasure listening to you. I'm sure audience enjoyed your presentation, and we will be sharing the video up after this with all our registered participants. So you can also connect with our speakers on LinkedIn and continue the collaboration. That is why we do this event, to make sure the industry collaborates with each other and share their expertise and experience. Thank you so much, speakers. It was a pleasure having you here. Now, as we move ahead, the next section talks about service excellence. And also it talks about loyalty, customer loyalty and referral. So this is a topic which is which we are ending today's event with a presentation from Kaushik Bhattacharjee. Kaushik Bhattacharjee is coming with 23 years of rich experience, which includes hospitality, BPO, and of course, healthcare sector. And he has worked with some of the finest brands, both in India and now also in Middle East and Asia. Currently, he is the Chief of Patient Experience for Medcare Hospital Group and Medical Centers, which is a premium segment of the DM Aster Healthcare Group based out of Dubai. Kaushik is also known for curating service excellence framework for healthcare setups. He has done the same for Apollo Hospitals Enterprise Limited in India and now doing for the Medcare Hospital Group. He has been awarded the prestigious Bharat Gaurav Award for Central Ministry for his contribution to patient experience in the healthcare industry. I welcome Kaushik to take the stage and share your presentation and enlighten us with your experience and expertise. Over to you, Kaushik.
Thank you so much, Imran. It's a pleasure. And before I start on with what I wanted to share, I think it's honestly a matter of great pride, privilege, and pleasure to interact with a group of healthcare professionals across, I think, more based out of Southeast Asia, Middle East. It's always a pleasure. And I think what I'm going to do let me start sharing my presentation. Give me a minute here. Okay, so is my presentation visible to everyone? Iman, if you could just give me a heads up on that.
Not yet, Kaushik.
Is it now?
No. Just
Give
like
me a minute.
Yeah, you can share with computer audio. So you can share screen with computer audio. That's when we'll be able to see it.
Yes, I've shared the screen with computer audio. Visible now?
Not yet. No, it's not. It's still not visible.
Okay.
Is the presentation in the full screen mode?
Yeah, presentation is in the full screen mode. Okay. One minute. Sorry for the technical. Yeah, it should be visible now. Maybe the video I will change it slightly different.
Yes, it's coming now. Yes, we can see the presentation.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so good morning. And so I rightly say technology is an enabler in so many ways. So thank you, Team BTOPIC, for this lovely opportunity. And I think in next 15 to 17 minutes from now, I'm going to share with you my stories, my experiences, and I'm a firm believer in stories because when I meet a lot of people, I ask them to tell me a movement that has won their loyalty. There is a story. When I ask them that tell me a movement, tell me one organization that you will never visit, there is always a story. The common connect between a great experience and a bad experience, there is always a story. Average transactions have no stories. And I am going to share with you the topic that I have chosen to share with you is service excellence, the game changer in the modern healthcare system. I know there could be a lot of people from the clinical field also in this conference. With all my due regards and respect, let me tell you, clinical excellence, nursing excellence is the core of the healthcare industry. I'm not taking anything away. But today, your customer is changing, and I will thank Google because today, I think our greatest competition is just a Google away. So with that thought, I move forward. And that is in short about what I do. So I come from a background of hospitality, BPO, healthcare systems, and work with some of the reputed brands, both in India as well as in Middle East. Right now, today I'm representing the Medcare hospitals and medical centers, which is a premium segment of the DM Aster Healthcare Group. So I carry on with my presentation. So just to give you a little bit of insight. So I have been into the customer facing role as an employee, frontline. I've been into the supervisory role. I've been into the strategic role. And today I'm a part of the executive committee whereby I design the customer service, customer experience strategies, see how they are executed. So I'll tell you a lot of stories of my failure because I think they give us a lot of learnings as compared to success. So let's go one by one. Now, we all know we like it, we do not like it. When it comes to customers, feelings are facts and perception is reality. We could debate, we could fight among the departments saying, no, the customer was wrong and we are right. But the moment a customer or a patient, or you might call it even a guest, makes a perception about the brand, that perception remains forever, right? And healthcare customer is no different. We all in our life take decisions, right? And the decisions, you'll be surprised to know there was a recent study that was done by Gallup, in which out of all the decisions that we take, it is a combination of rational and a combination of emotional factors. You'll be surprised to know that the rational factors account to only 30% of decision making and emotional factors account to 70% of decision making. And when they do this survey for the Asian community, the numbers completely are more changing, where the emotional is 90% and rational is only 10%. So if I put this into healthcare, see how it looks like. On rational things, you see multiple things, the clinical outcomes, operational efficiencies, medical inventory, location, value for money. You have multiple KPIs that we measure in hospital, and with many people who are with me in this webinar are experts and champions in this. But let me tell you, there are many other things that sometimes we measure or we don't measure, and which I feel is so critical. Like, how do we measure the trust? Whether it is banking, whether it is airline, whether it is hospital, the industry is about trust. How do we measure transparency? How do we measure integrity, passion, joy, impulsiveness, companionship, confidence, and pride? Do we measure this in the organization, or do we attempt to measure it in the organization? So now it's very, very clear, guys. We need to focus on experience because the world is moving away from satisfaction to experience. And why I say this, because I remember this very, very famous tagline: commodities are fungible, goods are tangible, services are intangible, but experiences are memorable. Every time you create an experience for a customer or for a patient, it is individualized, it is personalized, it is crafted for him because we have created a story for him and he will remember that experience. And so we are going to talk more on the world of experience. Now, having said that, we like it, we do not like it, but healthcare is definitely not an epitome of experience, okay? We are still years backward in terms of other industries do. So it is equally important to benchmark with right industries, right? So let me quickly take you to my next slide. Whom do we benchmark with as an organization? I think one of the critical things that we benchmark with, obviously, we benchmark with the RIPs of the world, with the Tajas of the world, because they are an epitome of experience. Now, when I start benchmarking with other industries, and sometimes a lot of people tell me impossible, improbable, impractical, he does not belong to this industry. But I always tell them it is possible, it is doable, it is measurable, it is repeatable, and also sustainable. We at Medcare, I personally benchmark also with Emirates Airlines. So lot many people say, no, I don't agree with this. So I tell them, hey, in the airline industry, who does the most important job? It is always the pilot. In healthcare, who does the most important job? It is always the doctor. But when you rate an airline, you rate the airline based on the cabin experience that you provided, your check-in experience that you had. And that's the reason it is absolutely the same industry, because they have safety as a priority, we have safety as a priority. The second common industry that we are talking, in Emirates itself, the second important pillar that they talk about is efficiency. In hospital, it's also about efficiency. The third important pillar that they talk about is courtesy. In healthcare, that is where we lag in a very, very big time. I will not say lag, but I think there are always ups and downs and swings on this. Now, let me also tell you the other important component part of this is with regards to show. Everything that happens in an Emirates is like performing on a stage. That we definitely lack in healthcare. Now, the third comparison of benchmarking that we do, that is Disney. Why I do this? So when I show this slide to my leadership team, they will say, definitely this guy is out of his mind. But let me tell you one more slide that I show to them. What is at the end of the day Disney? A Disney is about meeting the emotional needs of a family who come to have fun together. What is hospital? A hospital is about meeting the emotional needs of a family who go through fear, pain, and sometimes anxiety, and sometimes even tragedy together. A hospital without compassion is like a trip to Disney without fun. So we are in the same industry as Disney, only offering a different experience. So having said that, and I wanted to relate this message each time, every time, we curated a small little video, which I want to share with all of you to understand it better. So I'm just sharing the video. You will help me to see if the voice is transforming or not. Are you able to hear the voice?
Kaushik, I believe the volume is not coming.
Okay, I will just then ensure that it comes. Give me a minute. Is it coming now?
Yes.
Wonderful.
But we don't see the video.
Oh, now that is okay. Give me a minute. Give me 1 minute. Let me just sort this out. Are you seeing the video now?
Still just the volume, just the audio.
Just the audio. Okay. One sec, please. Give me 1 sec. I'm just trying to get this sorted. Yeah, it should happen now. Is it?
Now we have the video without the audio.
Oh my God. You know what? So we'll
Let's
fine,
continue.
no issues. Okay, fine. Let it continue because that has words and we can. Thank you, gentlemen. I know without the music, it would have been very different, but I just thought I will share this with you. So let me quickly now go back to my presentation. Okay, now is my presentation visible to everyone?
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. So basically, I always wanted to ensure that in service excellence, I think it's very, very important that everybody speaks that one common language of service, one common chord. And healthcare, honestly speaking, is an amalgamation of multiple emotions that flow day in, day out across the hospital corridors. So this is a video that I showed it to you right now. We play during our induction saying, this is healthcare for you, because we get people from different industries. I'm primarily talking more of the non-clinical workforce. Now, what we have done in order to get a zoomed sight into service excellence, I have divided into 4 pillars. One obviously is the pillar of digitization, the pillar of human experience, the pillar of facility facelift, and the pillar of unique dining experience. So everything that is non-clinical is included under this pillar of the service excellence. Now, of the interest of time, I will not be able to dig into each pillar and take you through in details, but I have captured a few snapshots that has really helped us in a very, very big way in uplifting our overall patient experience and employee experience. So I'm going to share those details with you. I think across the globe, and I was just speaking to Joy at the backstage, one common problem is shortage of nurses. Every nursing director that I speak to, they say my nurses are burdened doing non-clinical work, which is so much a reality. So in both at Apollo and now in UAE, what we have done is I've studied all the non-clinical work that the nurses do, and we developed a concept known as One Touch. It works out very simple because honestly speaking, technology is very cheap. I will not say very cheap, but cheaper in Dubai as compared to other places. So what we have done, every time a patient checks into my room, or we hand him over a tablet. So everything that is non-clinical is there on the tablet. For example, he might need a towel, he might need water, he might need his food trays to be cleared. This takes away a lot of bandwidth of nursing. So what we have done, we have put that in a tablet. So the patient just has to press that and the request goes to the person who is supposed to deliver the job. And I can track from my office every single request that is getting originated from the patient. And you'll be surprised to know we have 4 hospitals. Every month, we get approximately, say, 8,000 such requests with the patient registers. If 8,000 requests, if each request could have taken 5 minutes to complete, can you imagine the amount of bandwidth that we are talking of? And that is the amount of bandwidth today that goes back to nursing to do the bedside work or the clinical work. Now, this became so popular, what nurses started saying, that we get sometimes very bad responses from MDCCUs, ICUs, because with the biomedical equipments. So we said, okay, we have also rolled it out internally, sorry, to the nursing community, whereby anything that they want, which is non-clinical, anything that is not working, they use One Touch. This has brought a huge revolution in terms of how our nurses are experiencing the healthcare and how our patients are experiencing the healthcare. There is one more initiative that we run for our nursing. We started a concept of finishing school. I think one of the most common challenges across nursing is when they go to the bedside of the patient, there is pin drop silence. And I always say, you know, when suppose you're going for a procedure, you're going even for collecting a blood sample or for whatever it is, what silence does to you, it increases your anxiety level. And the moment your anxiety level goes up, your the threshold to absorb pain goes up, your BP shoots up. So why don't you start engaging with them in a more meaningful way? So along with the director of nursing, what we have done, we have taken at least common 10 to 12 procedures that we do on the bedside, which a nurse does, and introduce few basic communications, so at least that barrier can break on complete coldness that happens in the room. There is one more framework that we run for our nurses, which is known as the compassion framework. As I told you in the past, that people don't remember average experiences, they remember either great or sad experiences. So by the compassion framework, what we primarily do, we start educating, training our nurses in terms of how can normal transactions be converted into memorable stories. I will give you a very, very simple example. Like if there is any lady who has come for her first trimester, one of my nurses will quickly go draw a small little, Mickey and give the card to the mother, expecting mother, and say, and the card says, I am Mickey, I'm anxiously waiting for you to come out and play with me. These are small things, but service excellence is about those small things that make bigger impact, because doctors will do their job, nurses will do their job. But at the end of the day, if I have to provide a wholesome healthcare experience, it's an amalgamation of those multiple touch points that come together to create that impact. So this is something that we have done for nursing fraternity. This is something that we do once they join us. We take them to a finishing school. After a 7-day program, there is a certification process, and then they're released onto the shop floor. But before they're released onto the shop floor, what we also do, we run a very nice grooming program from them as well, which I'll share with you in a slide. Now, everything that we do in service excellence, it comes to ROI or ROE is what I call. Now, this is something that I have made for you to grab your attention. Sorry. Now, this is a grid of employee motivation and staff performance and patient assessment. See, wherever we hire people, we hire for competence. Now, what happens when these people perform on the floor, you will maximum get a rating of good because you hire or fire people for competence. Now, if I move to the next level, how can they be courteous? For them to be courteous, we teach them, we train them on various phrases, what to say when you enter the room, greet yourself, introduce yourself. But even when they do that, because we know today this is the requirement of the industry, but even when they do that, we can only get very good. But the moment you have got the spirit of compassion, you have got people who can excite people, that is when you get a 5 out of 5 in patient experience. So today, a job that I do as the chief of experience, how do we inspire our people to ensure that every single transaction becomes a memorable story for the customer to share? And this is something that I was talking to you about. All my nurses, we actually provide them with a grooming kit. We hired somebody from none other than the best of the hotel in the world, Atlantis. We provide them the grooming kit. All my nurses have a similar lip shade, have a similar mascara, have a similar eyeshadow. Because at the end of the day, the way you carry yourself makes a huge difference because that shows the confidence that you have. And also a firm believer, what gets rewarded gets repeated. So we run a reward and recognition scheme. Just give you a sample of this. And look at what it has done to our entire review system. I've also given you the ratings of the competition hospitals along with where we rate. So this is all in short that I had to present, and this is the team who creates that magic. That is all from my side. If you have any questions, we can take it up.
Apologies, audience. Thank you so much for the excellent presentation on service excellence, Kaushik. We're running out of time, so we won't be taking any live questions. But audience, please feel free to reach out to Kaushik on LinkedIn or send a message on this platform. He will be more than happy to respond to your questions. As we move on to our next discussion in operational and service excellence in healthcare and how process improvement and lean is impacting healthcare to improve the patient care and overall delivery of the service. So please join me in welcoming our panelists and moderator, Mr. Pradesh from the Lean Six Sigma company, Asia, Mr. G. Saravanan, I believe he's not able to join. He's in an emergency right now. And Joy Chakraborty, who's the Chief Operating Officer from Hinduja Hospital Group. And you already know Kaushik, who's already here with us. I'm requesting everyone to join here and we'll begin the panel discussion. Pradesh, over to you.
Yeah, Pradesh, we are all.
Pradesh has got 2 login. I think they may be confusing to us, so he can just keep one login.
Pradesh, I believe your audio login is not right. We're not able to hear you. Maybe you can, let's do this. I think I know what's the issue here. So Pradesh is joined with 2 devices probably. So the audio is coming from the other device. So let me just check if that's what the issue is.
Yeah, that's the reason. Am I audible?
Yes, perfect. Now you're audible.
Okay, super. So good day to every one of you. We warmly welcome you. So today, now we are going to discuss a very important, timely important topic. Before that, let me introduce our resource panel, the panelists, the resource persons with us. Hope screen is visible to you.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let me start with Kaushik. Kaushik Bhattacharjee, and he's head of service excellence, Medicare hospitals and medical centers in UAE. Introducing him, Kaushik has over 23 years of industry experience, like working for 3 completely different industries: hospitality, BPO, and healthcare sectors, both India and Middle East Asia. And so I need to highlight this. He has been awarded with the prestigious Bharat Gaurav Award for his excellent contribution to the patient experience in healthcare sector. Please welcome Kaushik.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pradesh.
Okay, so then let me move to Joy. So with us, Joy Chakraborty. So he is the Chief Operating Officer for Hinduja Hospital. He has over 25 years of experience in healthcare operations and delivery. Currently, he is leading several industry bodies in healthcare sector in India. We warmly welcome you, Joy.
Thank you, Pradesh.
And Saravanan, unfortunately, he had to leave due to due to an emergency. So any moment he will join us. So he's the CEO of Thompson Hospital Group, Malaysia, and we have Abdullah Salim from Inco Omni Hospital. He's the group CIO. He has so he has over 27 years of experience in healthcare IT domain. A very senior healthcare information technology leader with strategic and technical planning experience, large systems development, system integration, and clinical transformation. I'm sure so we have the right expertise to discuss today's topic. So it's a very important topic we're going to discuss, especially when we are talking about healthcare. You can't forget about this operational and service excellence. That's the real game changer. And we are going to discuss the data analytics side as well, trends and the usage of it, and the process improvement and lean in healthcare. So these topics we will touch in this session. So let me start with Kaushik. So we all know service excellence has a very significant role to play in healthcare. So how do you see this? How significant is this service excellence in healthcare? And most importantly, what are the factors you should consider when you roll out service excellence in healthcare sector? It's over to you, Kaushik.
So Pradesh, I'll make it because I covered a lot of it in my presentation, but I'll make it very short and crisp. See, today, service excellence is becoming such a game changer because of 2 reasons. Number one, today the primary healthcare and secondary healthcare, the only differentiator remains a service. I'm not talking of the tertiary and the quaternary healthcare because whatever the services, people will still come to you because you have got that core expertise. You call up a proton therapy, if you have whatever service you might give, but people will come to you because they want to save that life. But the majority, when I'm talking of the primary and the secondary healthcare, we like it or not, it has become more like a commodity. The only differentiator becomes a service. Now, I will say you my experiences working with multiple organizations, interacting with multiple CEOs. Now, service excellence in many has evolved also in a very, very big way. Few years back, it was only limited to somebody collecting feedback, somebody addressing patient grievances, and that was the end of it. But over a period of time, we realized that is more of a reactive approach. How can that be more proactive? And there has been a lot of marrying across the industry. So people from many hospitality people, including like me one, have joined into this industry. People from airlines have joined into this industry. And today, I think the entire way how we look at service excellence, at least in Dubai part, what I can tell you, the operations team, they focus on transactions. The experience team, their focus is primarily on how can they make the experience more and more seamless and frictionless. So in short, I call service excellence is like the icing on the cake. The cake is your clinical, nursing, operational, IT infrastructure, and world-class facility. Service excellence integrates all of that because at the end of the day, Pradesh, the magic is created by the human being who is interacting with the customer. If your workforce is not motivated, not ignited, not passionate to create the difference, sometimes the best of technology fails. I always say this, you could have the best OT in the world, but by the time, and that is important, that is required because you're saving a life. But by the time you wheel the patient inside the OT, he's not admiring your infrastructure, but is remembering the words that the nurse and the doctor spoke while we are wheeling the patient inside the OT. So have we taken care of those things to create an amazing experience for the patient? So I think I'm a firm believer for a good service excellence, a organogram has to be right. Because one thing that I see vigorously wrong is service excellence guy sometimes might not be at a senior level. If he is not at a senior level, he cannot tell a CEO, this needs to be done this way. A CEO and the chief of experience, they work hand in hand to make the organization to a different level. So those are my views and inputs on service excellence.
Okay, superb explanation. I think you try to explain about this customer experience, right? Going through. Very so I'll come to this point again. So in the second round as well. So then I'm moving to so the operational excellence. So next I would like to talk about or discuss about the implementation side of it. So I would like to move to Joy. So Joy, so how do you see the process or the process steps, or how the steps you need to follow, developing operational excellence in hospitals, the implementation side of it?
So I think Kaushik spoke about creating service excellence, and when we talk about service excellence, we need to have a very good grip over
in hospitals, the implementation side of it.
Yeah. So we have Kaushik spoke about creating service excellence, and when we talk about service excellence, we need to have a very good grip over
in hospitals, the implementation side of it.
Yeah. So we have Kaushik spoke about creating service excellence, and when we talk about service excellence, we need to have a very good grip over
in hospitals, the implementation side of it.
Yeah. So we have Joy, I think there is a video playing in the
Service excellence, and
that
when
video.
we talk about service
What
excellence,
is going on? I am not speaking. Just
very
give
good
I could
In hospitals, implementation side of it.
yeah. So we have
another player. There is a video playing in the
service excellence, and
that
when
video.
we talk about service excellence,
What is going on? I am not speaking. Just give
In hospitals, implementation side of it.
yeah. So we have
another player. There is a video playing in the
service excellence, and
that
when
video.
we talk about service excellence,
What is going on? I am not speaking. Just give
In hospitals, implementation side of it.
yeah. So we have
another player. There is a video playing. I believe there was some error in terms of his feedback, video feedback. So maybe he had another player which was playing the video, live video from the lobby. So that's why there was a loop. So let him join back. And Pradesh, you can continue. Maybe you can continue with Abdullah for now. And once he joins back, you can take ahead.
Okay, so till Joy joins us, so I will move to Abdullah. Right, so here I would like to discuss about with you. I mean, you can discuss about the challenges you face, especially this implementing operational excellence, operational and service excellence in the healthcare sector. So can you share us maybe your own experience, the challenges you see?
All right. Thanks for the questions. And just before I answer these questions, Kaushik, very nicely we have articulated the compassionate care delivery. And that compassionate care delivery we're talking about, that is the area that the maximum healthcare industry, especially in Asia Pacific, is missing. And hospitals have understood the value of it. And unlike the developed country where some organizations are providing the training and the certifications, and it has become a trend there to get the accreditation of being a compassionate. So if we are going to come down to if you're talking about the India perspective, I'll say that the Indian top corporate hospital have understood this value and they are working toward it, but it is still started and it is in evolving stage. But if we talk about the patient retention, if compassion delivery is not there, compassion delivery means you have to be empathize with the patient party, and ensure that long-term connection is there to deliver the continuity of care. As far as concerned the technology challenges, there are too many challenges in the current era of the technology. Few of them I'll put up my thoughts on the bulleted lines, and that the one is the legacy systems and fragment IT infrastructure. That is one important challenge. The second is data security and privacy concerns in healthcare perspective. This is again a highly evolving stage, and very soon it will get a maturity level for the organization. Again, I'm talking about the Indian healthcare perspective. And interoperability issues. Again, it is interoperability means it doesn't matter from which country we have come, where you do live, but your data and your clinical data is supposed to be consolidated at any given point type, whether in the tertiary care, primary care, secondary care, and emergency care, and so on and so forth. So that is another challenge where the Indian government has taken taking some initiatives towards that goal, but it is a long way to go. The third is the IT staff shortage. Still, there is a different kind of IT professionals are required, and that is the shortage is still going on. But somehow the freshers are being taken and then trained and then fill up the gap. By the way, I also take a class in the guest lecture. I do the symbiosis and ISB and BITS planning, where I promote a lot of youngsters to come to the IT rather than going in the IT healthcare, rather than going to the hospitals and looking for doing their own business or being a CEO. So the health informatics is there, so that from the health informatics perspective, if the product company is making any product, they are going to add a lot of value there. So that I do a kind of a change management, that's perspective. Second, patient engagement is very, very important. And if the hospital is not digitized, the patient engagement is not possible, and you cannot retain your patient. That's very understood during the COVID and post-COVID. And that's the reason that all the healthcare organizations have started giving increasing the budgets. Suppose there is a standard 2.5% of their revenue to IT infra and applications. Now it has reached between 3.5 to 4.5, and they're ready to invest. Compliances, of course, and another challenge. Especially in the HIPAA compliance, and we're talking about HIPAA compliance, JCI, NABH, application perspective, not the process perspective. Cost management is the another challenge, and if we are not digitized, and we are definitely is going to increase the cost, and if you are not cost effective, that will be another media to ensure that the patient continuity, patient engagement is going to suffer. So there the cost management is another challenge if the digitization is not there. Change management and training continuously. It is not only the change management towards the digitization, change management towards delivering the care with the compassion, with the top class process, people and technology competitions combination. So that's the big challenge, because people and process is the biggest challenge in the healthcare industry, and technology was not a challenge at any given point of time, and in today's era it's definitely not. So if you'll see that why I'm saying emphasizing in people process scatters 70% of your stack to deliver the service, and just 30% technology caters. If the 70% chunk has been taken care of properly and then map with the technology, then it performs the magic. So in the short, in a conclusion, if you said addressing these IT-related challenges required strategic and forward-thinking approach, involving leadership commitment, investment in technology, investment in being compassionate, ongoing training, and focus on the data security, interoperability, and patient engagement. Over to you, gentlemen.
Okay, wonderful, Abdullah. Now Joy is back, so I would like to give the opportunity again. So if you can share us, whoever, if someone is interested in rolling out this service excellence, the process excellence in their hospitals or the healthcare organizations, so how would you advise them? Yeah.
So can you hear me now properly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we are.
So what we do, first we try to understand that when we say service and process excellence involved, what is the expectations of the customer, patients, their relatives. And it also includes our own internal employees and doctors. So when we try to understand and assess for each of these business activities, what is the current state? So we use 2-3 different tools in our hospital. The first tool I can tell you about, we have this, we spoke about Lean, Six Sigma and all. So we do the complete process mapping for each of the activities, identify which is not a value adding activity, which is not adding any value in the whole process. And then we try to remove, or we may have an alternate process in place. So in that way, we have come across several, excellence, or rather we have done several things which has given us tremendous value. Some of these are directly related to the patient and their satisfaction. Some of them are optimization of resources, what we use in our hospital. We have used the Six Sigma, and I can tell you probably we are one of the hospitals in India which is doing continuously these activities. So we have created a business excellence department where we have trained and qualified people who are conducting these programs on regular basis, on annual basis. We set up a target that what should be the kind of target what we need to achieve in this year. The second thing, which is little primitive, and when I say primitive, it has been seen mostly maybe a couple of decades ago in the manufacturing sector, is called quality circles. So in the quality circles, it is like a quality tool, but I'll tell you how it is related to this process improvement. We get the people down the line who are really working in a particular process, and they are involved and they have much more first-hand information about that process. And when we involve them, we give them a problem, we see that they come out with very good solutions time to time, and which is really a value addition. So we keep those data, and we see that how that can be used. So one of the problems what in fact Kaushik was presenting in the earlier presentation, where he has shown that from one touch, things can be done. So we have found that our patients, when they want something, and our staff, attendant, and everyone, they need to move around and do things. There is a time lag because the communication takes long time to get closed. All this happen. So we have made completely a system where a patient, when they go give any request, they go for anything, that gets automatically recorded. And when the loop is closed, that also is entered. So we can measure the time what has been taken to meet each of these requests. The other thing, again, Kaushik was talking about the nursing time and all. So what we have done in terms of mitigating that issue, we have made a system of continuous remote monitoring for the patient. So not in the ICU. I'm talking about non-ICU setup. Patients have been, the bed have been given, which is continuously, streaming their vital signs. So earlier, nurses were required to go to the room every 2 hours, take the vitals, and come back and record. Now they need not to do anything. They can only monitor things in their screen in the nursing station, which is also getting recorded and captured. So at any point of time, if you need to see that how the progress of the patient and how it is going on, you can see. And one of the very important, it has reduced in many occasions when an early sign of someone who is supposed to be taken to ICU for any critical management, all those incidences have been reduced significantly. And finally, I'll tell you about one of the process excellence result and automation, how it has resulted in our hospital, and then I'll close. We got a speech to text. So one of the pain points for any hospital today is, getting a discharge summary done and how quickly you can send the patient back home. And they don't want to wait once the doctor tell them that they are ready to go home. So what we have done in our hospital, we have got this speech to text system where a doctor can dictate and automatically that get transferred into a text form, whatever they speak, and in front of them they can just correct and they can give it. And let me tell you, in that way, I had a big medical transcriptionist team who were sitting there and getting these dictations earlier, typing it, getting it corrected, again sending back. The whole thing has been taken away. So it is more of getting feedback from the end users, looking at how the process can be streamlined by using some of the quality tools, and then finally looking at implementation of some of the, I should say, technologies or solutions which are time tested, and then you can go one step forward. So I'll stop here and thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Joy. And I would like to move back to Kaushik. So another topic here we need to cover is the digitization. So when it comes to the process excellence or digitization, has a big role to play. So why don't you I would like if you can share your own experience, the projects you have took initiatives, your own experience on that digitization success stories. So. Yeah.
See, I think I started, and whether we like it, we do not like it, today digitization is a big pillar. And I do not look at it whether it is operational excellence or service excellence, because whenever you look at digitization, the prime job is how do we make the life of our people frictionless and seamless. And as Joy rightly mentioned, it just ties up to that. How can we be more cost efficient, right? So what we do, there's a separate wing that I run under service excellence, and I was talking about this, which is called the pillar of digitization. The first thing that I run there is have a great voice of customer methodology, because my personal experience, what I have seen, many organizations, they have got a VOC system. We go to a vendor, we take a VOC system and we implement it. But many organizations make this mistake. I always ask them, are you measuring to improve or are you measuring to impress? Because many senior leaders that I meet, they will say, I want 0 complaints. And believe me, when you have a target of 0 complaint, one of the easiest ways to not document them. In any service industry, there will be a complaint. So what I primarily do, the VOC system that we had developed is the wireframing of the application is done by us. And the output also, we worked outward to inward. We said, okay, what do senior leaders at a CEO level need to look? We understand, like people at a Joyce level, there are multiple other things to focus on. Their attention span to service excellence has to be quick, short. They should be provided with that information readily in their mobile, because today everybody lives in Insta culture thanks to the Amazons of the world, which has to be made available to him at the click of a button saying, these are your 5 things that is happening in the hospital. So what we did, we worked with a vendor based out of India. We did the wireframing of the application. We designed we made the user interface very nice, because one of the things that people complain, patient-facing applications are fabulously very great, but employee-facing applications that look and feel is never that great. So we have our own voice of customer application, which is hand-wired and maintained by us. And we use that as a base for selling or pushing anything. The second initiative that we run is a query management system. So what we do here, we have a call center that is outsourced. So one huge complaint that patients had, whenever we are outside the hospital, our ability to connect with people completely disappears because nobody gets back to us. And we went back to the call center said, we send those traditional emails, but people revert to emails at their own time and comfort. So what we did, we introduced a query system. The moment any patient has got a query, hits my call center, it's a ticket that gets generated to my user department. Every query has got an SLA. And sitting in my office, I can see every query for every hospital. I've got 5 hospitals and 20 medical centers. The moment something is shooting to red, I call up the UIC. I say, this query is not responded. Can you please act on it real time? So what people started doing, and people are 1,000 times more smarter than what we are in strategy. They started closing the queries so that I don't even see them without even helping the customer. So we did one additional layer. We said every time a query gets closed, an SMS goes to the patient saying, are you happy with the quality of closure? And it's a continuous learning. There is one more thing, one touch, I already spoke about this, which I will not speak. There's a unique queue that we started, which is known as your continuum of care. Every single patient who gets discharged from my hospital gets a call from my team, and the team reports only to me. These are nurses who are in their 50s back, age limit, who doesn't want to typically do nursing job, but understand clinical so well. They call every single patient to understand how did they feel being treated at Medcare. I don't do any sales promotion here. I do nothing here. I just give them a call and I ask them, tell me 2 things that you want us to improve. Believe you me, there are so many complaints that we receive about doctors, so many complaints we receive about nurses. So initially when I started the process, it was like a war zone. People said, no, customers are just saying like that. The reality is very different. I said, whatever it is, that perception is reality. So that is the queue that I run. And based out of this, today the queue has started to generate revenue. Today, patients actually call up this queue for booking appointment, whether people need pharmacy at home, whether people need physio at home, whether people need any additional things, they call up this queue. So today this queue has started to generating revenue. So these are the multiple snippets that I run under the wing of digitization. So hope that addresses to what you were asking.
Just I'll add it, Kaushik, what you said. Simply, I think we have articulated towards the NPS, and you were talking about the ticketing system. The ticketing system is clinical and non-clinical, and the SLA is there, or auto SLAs is there, and if it's not being addressed on a certain level 1, level 2, level 3, at least goes to level 5, level 10. So definitely that is the game changer in terms of improving the top line. On top of it, the same solutions we have implemented this NPS. You should talk about a Net Promoter Score, if I'm not wrong. So that's during the NPS during the course of treatment, NPS post discharge in case of inpatient. And outpatient, definitely there is we are taking care of. So we have added if they say that we have added the recording system as well. If the NPS is being taken care by the X team, and they are going to ask only one question: Are you going to refer the patient? This is one question. And after that, there is a question, sub-question comes, and if there is any detractors, passive and promoters, in case of any detractors, and promoters, it get escalated to the respective department. And again, this respective department is supposed to go to close that ticket on the patient level closure, process level closure, and that department HOD level closure. If it is not done, then there is that SLA is linked to their KRA KPIs, and based on that, it is being evaluated during the appraisal. So I think this is the best way that in Hyderabad, most of the hospital had started, but we had put it a little but state of the arts functions features. As you said, that the solution which we are making, the solution, whenever we develop a solution and whenever we take a solution, we look three parameters. It should have a sub-second response. It does not need any training the way it's supposed to be developed. It's the sub-second response. It does not need any training, and based on that, we evaluate the solutions and put it into the implementation. So we just take a quick 30 minutes session and in the town hall meeting, and then training is over. So that's why we take care of, and this is the area that the technology is going to add value towards the delivery of excellency. Over to you.
So, Abdullah, just one thing I'll just add on. I think in the coming future, the way how the organograms look will also change. I think today, whether it is the chief of experience, the chief of IT, and the marketing should all work together to create it, because at the end of the day, the movement in hospitals, there are a lot of silos. So the movement, everybody works together, it becomes a whole different nature altogether, because so many things that what Abdullah told, or even what Mr. Joy has told, they're so correlated. You need everybody in one direction and having one focus on the patient-related outcomes.
That too, but recently I had attended a seminar here in Bangalore, 100 CIO award. There it has been, a lot of people came and they presented, and there was a discussion as well that CIO, CTO, they are not the only IT enabler towards the business execution. They are going to take a major part in terms of the business growth. So that's what the trend has been moving towards that, and the organization also expecting the same. Over to you.
Yeah. Okay, so wonderful discussion, especially we touched a lot on this digitization, data-driven decision making, the most importantly, customer satisfaction. So I have another question to you, like, the entire panel. So how do you see, like, this Lean Six Sigma, the process when it comes to process improvement, you can't forget about Lean Six Sigma. So how do you see that, like, your own experience, like, how, like, up to which level you have considered Lean Six Sigma, or like any success stories you would like to share, Lean Six Sigma? Anyone can take this question, maybe Kaushik or?
Yeah, two ways of looking into this. So my exposure to Lean Six Sigma happened when I was working with Dell Computers, Pradesh. Now, again, a hospital has to take, and Joy was explaining, I wish Joy joins the call, because Joy was explaining very beautifully on how they have adopted Lean Six Sigma for their operational processes, and how they have done those lovely quality circles in between the department, which enhances. See, I look at it has to be very finer balance, because one thing that I found in healthcare, I have adopted a concept of Human Sigma. So what Lean Six Sigma does for manufacturing industries, Human Sigma does for service industries. Because in healthcare, one thing that is so critical and important is the variability that every employee produces for every single situation that happens day in and day out. And that variability is too much of a variability to measure, right? Like very difficult. So one thing that I do for operational processes, for example, if you're trying to look at your throughput time in pharmacy, if you're trying to look at processing time in pharmacy, Six Sigma projects holds pretty good. But if you're trying to focus something on how do we enhance our experience, I think Human Sigma plays a very, very important role. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not able to create that wow for the interaction that is happening on the bedside or across the doctor, you will not be able to take the organization to a different level. You might be efficient, but it's very important. But I would rate in healthcare, courtesy is sometimes more important than efficiency. So those are my thoughts from a service excellence perspective. So I'm not saying no to Six Sigma. It is definitely in today's day and age, everybody is looking at increasing efficiencies, but how it can be beautifully hand-wired together with the human excellence and take it forward.
Okay, so Kaushik, I have a connecting question to you. Since you mentioned about this Human Sigma and the Six Sigma, so quality, the quality and cost. So these two, the pillars. Now you can't compromise each other. So how do you see, like, when you have to prioritize? I know the quality side, the customer expectation, the patient's expectations, giving a good service. On the other side, you have a pressure to, the increase in your bottom line. So how do you see this, the blend?
So Pradesh, to make it very simple, I think in healthcare, the first important pillar is about safety. No compromise on safety. Whether it is airline, whether it is Disney, whether it is healthcare, whether it is hospitality, there is nothing more important than patient safety. Right from admission to discharge, it is all about safety, right? That's my first pillar. My second important pillar, more than efficiency, I focus more on courtesy. See, it will happen. Mistakes will happen. Processes will break down. At the end of the day, these are human beings. But sometimes when you're courteous, when you have a great communication link with all your team members and the patient, things tend to be better and okay. See, you might have, I'll give you an example. You have a great experience in booking an appointment app-based. You book an appointment, you come in the hospital, but if in case during the parking, you meet with a security guard who's not compassionate. You have your elder parents, you want a wheelchair for them. The security says there is no wheelchair, you go and get it from the hospital. So your entire vow that you created, having a great digital hospital, is broken because of that security or the watchman who did not open the door of your car.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the reason I say courtesy is my second important pillar. The third important pillar I put as efficiency. In terms of how do we make processes more and more efficient. In doing that, I always keep in mind, is it becoming, I'm leaving the word seamless. I'm saying, is it becoming frictionless for my team? Today, some leadership team wants to drive a project, but they don't calculate, if I drive this project, how much it is going to impact my employees, how much of extra time that they will need to do this in addition to what they're doing. Are we budgeting that in the manpower? Right? And the fourth important thing, I always tell my employees, we are in the business of creating and showcasing experience. So can we do it like performing on the stage? In healthcare, one common problem you will see a lot of people talking in their own vernacular language. And that is such a no-no. Because in healthcare, one thing that is there, I'm already with so much of anxiety around. Everything that is spoken, which I don't understand, people think they're speaking about me. And that forms a culture about the hospital. So these are the four pillars that I primarily look at. First will be safety, followed by courtesy, efficiency, and then how can we ensure that it is typically like a show. Once I'm on the uniform, I am facing the customer. Even if I'm not interacting, I am in the camera. So these are the four pillars that I drive, Pradesh.
Over to you, Abdullah. So you're on mute. Please share your thoughts on this. You're on mute.
If you allow me to add a bit on top of it, what Kaushik said, agreed, 100% agreed what the pillars he's talking about. So apart from that, the Six Sigma provides a few more values to the healthcare. And that is one of the most important, the reduced medical errors. This is a huge challenge across the globe. I'm not talking about India. Across the globe, even the if you talk about the developed countries like US and UK and Europe, still this problem is there. Streamlined processes. I said as a people process culture is very, very important. There is also Six Sigma emphasized to value that. Effective cost saving, we have all discussed as by Kaushik, and enhance patient satisfaction. So that is another area. And the one of the most important thing is the data-driven decision making. This Six Sigma brings to you that data-driven, you have to be data-driven with evidence, means evidence-based data-driven. Then the improved employee satisfaction is very nicely articulated. The important by Kaushik, the next important thing is the higher efficiency resource utilization. There, the Six Sigma give a lot of emphasis how to do that. Faster decision making. If you are a data-driven decision making, then definitely it will be a faster. And the most important, that continuous improvement culture across the organization have to emphasize always. Otherwise, Six Sigma will come and go, and finally the outcome what the organization looking for the business goal will be missing right there. Over to you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And so one more thing I want to highlight here, like what I understood here now, like throughout this discussion, the challenges, even when we were discussing about this mindset, the people change, the change management. So I would like to discuss more on this with you. So how do you see now? You have the best solution in the world, but when you are implementing it, that's where the real challenges you come across. So your own experience on this change management or the change in people. So especially like an organization having like the long history like working for. So when you implement solution, when you come up with new solutions, there are always challenges. So your own experience on that, two gentlemen.
Shall I take it?
Please do.
Yeah, please.
I'll give you a very simple example. The change management is how it is important. You have to be always innovative, and you cannot ignore the technology. And all the industries have understood that without technology, their business cannot be enabled, succeed without the technology. I'll give you a very, very simple example. Nokia came in very strongly and spread across, right? And he was the leader in the market. Somebody came in between, let's say Apple came, and in the 4 years of time, Nokia was killed. So if there's too many articles available on this, okay? So if we are not innovative, and we are innovative means change management, continuous change management. So if we are not innovative, we'll be left behind in the race. So change management is very, very important. And to implement the change management, the fund of people, process, technology, we have to put in place. And we have to take right people on the board. You have to, before taking the right people, ensure that your all SOPs and your processes is in place. And then map the technology. And you have to ensure that your organization is not a people-driven, it is a process-driven. So it's very, very important. In a hospital, if you say that they are a big hospital, and in one consultant, he's going to associate it with us, and then one fine day he comes that I bring too many patients to the hospital. So the process-driven hospital says, thank you very much. We value that, but this is the simple SOPs, and this is the process we have put in place. No matter how big you are, no matter how big patient you are going to bring, I'll be requesting you to follow the lead process, which is going to add value to you as well as my patient, because I don't want to any kind of erroneous action knowingly or unknowingly is executed at my premises. So that's the way I look at the change management, and on top of it, the soft area that the people appraising their work, and then providing incentive and kind of things, introducing incentive towards the adoptions, especially for the clinical adoptions, where the US has done, and India also is talking on the same line, because the clinical adoption is a little struggling part here across the country. So change management perspective, this is my inputs. I hope I have justified your question. Over to you.
Yeah. We have a few more minutes left. So from the audience, if you have any questions, can you please share with us? Yeah, so then, so the final round, I would like to ask from both you gentlemen, so how do you see the future looks like, especially data analytics or the trends? process excellence, service excellence. So you can cover any of these areas.
Oh yeah, Kaushik, want to take it?
Yeah, I meant to say, see, today, as Abdullah rightly stated, see, healthcare is also going through a journey whereby the silos needs to get away. Today, when you look at data analytics, what do they do for us? Whether you talk of machine learning, whether you talk of AI, everything provides you that information in one dashboard, which otherwise you could have taken hours to gather, right? Today, I think the focus is also slowly moving, and I'm talking a little bit on the clinical part, on how do we shift the gear from illness to wellness? How can we all look at making a healthier community? Today, look at the burden in India for diabetes and cardiac issues. So today, if you have a great healthcare system which unites all of us together, and I'm able to know in my community, these are the people whose HbA1cs are greater, and these are the people who have got a high risk to arrest. Can I treat them before? Can they take care of their health better? Because if we start focusing on that, because remember, the burden on healthcare is too much. And you know the amount of shortages that we have got, and I'm not even saying this for India, across everywhere. Whether it is the nursing ratios, whether it is your bed ratios, they are significantly less. And why think of healthcare only when you're sick? Why not think of healthcare to keep you fit and fine? The focus has to move, and I think government has to play a big role in this. In terms of, like, for example, not many companies do. In my company, it is mandate to do my health check every year, otherwise my bonuses don't get released. So until and unless we have some policies from the government where health check becomes mandatory, I know it's a difficult job, but until and unless we do something significantly different and train people that there is no shortcut to then healthy living, I think that will pay huge game changer. The rest all will fall in place. That thought process to change, and I think the way how a NABH looks at things, the way how a JCI looks at things also need to change. Because today, you like it, do not like it, just before a JCI, a hospital looks very different, and Abdullah will agree to this. Just before an NABH audit, I always say to my operations team, why can't hospitals be like this day in, day out? Right? And I strongly feel, and this message should go to the JCI team, come unannounced. Don't come announced. Come unannounced and see what goes through. You might have a very different picture, because hospitals have to follow JCI every day in their hospitals. Then patient safety will be on the forefront. So it's a very different approach, and government should play a very important role in this. It's a public-private partnership together. So that is all I had to share.
Yeah, very strong statement to come unannounced. So, throughout the day, so you need to practice.
So I will add a quick things on this. If we're talking about the value of the analytics in the healthcare perspective, right? Definitely the silos it is working in silos a little better. But when the data consolidation coming and at the point of care, when the clinical decision support system get activated, there the interoperability and integrity comes in the picture. But if the data, the entire clinical data, whether it is coming from embedded system or entered by the nurse, entered by the doctors, GPs, and if the data consolidated as in the place, and when the a patient is coming with the current episode of treatment, the clinical decision support system is going to based on the complete AI and predictive analytics. And it is going to be ease of treatment to the clinicians, treating doctors, treating team, and it is going to prevent at the utmost level of committing the clinical errors. Right? Just for example, I've given a very simple example that when a patient is there and he has been diagnosed as a head and neck cancer with having this kind of size of malignant tissue, and then the system is going to tell the doctors whether the patient is supposed to go for pre-surgery chemo management or post-surgery chemo management. And in that treatment, the treating doctor cannot do the changes in his ideas more than 10% across the changing the parameters in terms of drugs, in terms of patient education, in terms of other clinical factors. So even if he's going to change, and then the clinical audit goes to the clinical board, and where he has to go and justify that for the past 10 patients you have done this, and then do the analytics on top of it, that the treatment protocol which has been put in based on the NCCN guideline is working better, or this doctor who is putting his changes into that is giving the better benefit, the clinical benefit to the patient. Based on that, the clinical team, clinical board takes the decision to modify that clinical pathway, because that 10%, 15% changes made by the doctors works better. If it is not working better, then the doctor will be given instruction and given instructions and put the control that he cannot make changes in his more than 5% clinical parameters. So in those contexts, if we talk about the AI is started working at the most, but it is still in the evolving stage. And if we'll talk about the hacker's perspective, who is every now and then we are talking about the security perspective, the AI has been adopted 100% by the hackers. And for example, I'll give you how it is working from them. The complete IoT set for the hackers. They do the due diligence before doing a hack to any big organization, and it takes 6 months to 1 year. Now this IoT is taking just 1 week to 10 days. Just imagine 6 months to 1 year time has been reduced to 1 week and 10 days. That's the reason you would be looking that every now and then, every day, I don't know how many million attacks goes and being a safeguard the organization. Over to you.
Yeah. So that's how the future looks like. The challenges are there, of course, and the positives are there. Yeah. So I think so we have. Okay, so it's time for us to the wind up the session for today. Is there any one last statement you would like to share with the audience, or we can wind up?
I think we can wind up. Anybody needs any greater insights, anybody needs anything further, we are more than happy to help. They can take the coordinates, and more than happy, the more you share, the more you learn, the more you grow. And that way we can help. I always say we are so fortunate to work in healthcare, because every day we wake up in the morning and we have the ability to make a difference in somebody's life. And that's a blessing. And we get paid for it together. So that's a huge blessing.
And not to forget, every one of us are part and parcel with the healthcare industry. You and I, everyone, So we are connected. So you guys are playing a huge role here. I'm really appreciating the efforts you are taking into this, Abdullah. So thanks a lot joining for today's session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Abdullah. Pleasure meeting.
Same here.
Thank you, Pradesh. Thank you so much for moderating so well. Thank you, Iman.
Most welcome, Kaushik. Thank you so much, Abdullah, Kaushik, and Pradesh for that excellent session. I know we took longer than expected, but the session was so engaging. And since it was the last session before the break, so we said, okay, let's go with the flow. Thank you so much for your expertise and insights. It was a pleasure having you with us. I look forward to working with you again and inviting you to attend our physical event in Singapore in December on 14th and 15th.
Definitely. That would be more engaging and nice. It's always better.
That should be great.
It's always good to meet face to face. That's a good, a different setting. So thank you so much for your time again. And I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So what an exciting day it was. We started the event with technology and we ended the event excellence in operations, excellence in service, in patient care. So it looks like we had some great presentations. We had some great speakers. Dr. Ismail from Saudi Arabia, we had Susil Meher, head of IT from AIMS New Delhi, Dr. Sabine, who's part of United Nations, George Chakraborty from Hinduja Hospital Group. We had speakers from Malaysia, we had speaker from Singapore, we had speaker from India, Saudi, Dubai. So you can see the global collaboration that we had today. It was exciting to see all these experts sharing their opinions, sharing their experience with the audience. And now I would like to thank the audience who joined us live, who asked questions, who interacted with the speakers. It was nice to see so much of enthusiasm from the audience who asked the questions live, and also to the audience who were watching us live on YouTube, who is seeing us on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining us there and sharing your comments on LinkedIn and other social media platform. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our partners, all our media partners, all our supporting partners, and all our speakers and companies and people behind the event to help us create this platform of collaboration, create this business transformation and operational excellence series of events. I look forward to welcoming you again for a physical event in December, 14th and 15th of December in Singapore. It's going to be the physical event, which will cover not only healthcare, but also banking, finance, and insurance and supply chain. So you will have parallel sessions, parallel tracks in each of these industries, and we'll cover a wide range of topics. We'll bring in senior leaders, policymakers, influencers, innovators at the event. And I look forward to welcoming you there face-to-face. And I look forward to meeting you again for our next virtual event, which is happening in October, which is BTOPEX Supply Chain, which is business transformation and operational excellence for the supply chain industry in the Asia Pacific region. Please follow us on our LinkedIn page. Please follow us on all our social media platforms. You will get updates on what we are planning for next year. Next year is going to be better, bigger, and with more collaborative efforts from our side to make sure we create this community of business transformation, digital transformation, and operational excellence. And I look forward to working with you, not only in the Asia Pacific region, but also in Europe and North America. Thank you so much. Have a good day ahead. And please join us back after the lunch break, after the half-an-hour break, for a free white belt course from the Lean Six Sigma company, our partner in India. This is an absolutely free course. Understand the basics of the Lean Six Sigma and how you can implement in healthcare. Once the course is over, to get the certificate, we will be sending you a link via email. You can have a look at that and register yourself to get the certification. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again on the other side of the break. Good afternoon. Bye-bye.